Disclaimer! The following episode contains spoilers for all 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Don't go crying to your mom if we spoil it for you. You've been warned! Welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. And this week, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. We're talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer! Cue the music! Hello there, Capers, and as I said, welcome to Podcapers, the official podcast of a place to hang your cape. My name is Scott James Meridew, and this is the show where we talk about various geek and nerd-related topics, and I'm joined each week by a very special different guest. Now, as I said, we're going to be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because it's my fucking show, and I can do whatever the fuck I like, and I want to talk about fucking Buffy the Vampire fucking Slayer! And I'm joined by someone who knows just as much about Buffy as I do. Please give it up for the cosplay hero of a place to hang your cape, Kit Puddygeeks Horsley!
Hello! I'm not sure I know quite as much as you, but I can try.
Okay, fair enough. No one knows as much about Buffy as I do! But I know you're a fan, right?
Oh yeah, super fan. I've got all of the discs sat right next to me at the moment.
You've got all of the DVDs. Now see, I haven't got any Buffy Vampire Slayer DVDs, except for one. It's right over here. It's Season 8 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the motion comic.
Ah, cool. I did not know that was a thing, so I might have to look into that now.
Yeah, you have. It's like a couple of issues of the continuation of the show, the canon continuation of the show in comic form, but it's done with voice acting and motion comics, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. How much of the comics have you read?
None, but I have got the first collector's book on my shelf. I got it from LSCC in the summer for my birthday. I just haven't got around to reading it. But somebody only just filled me in recently that actually the comics continue on and they're canon from the show. I didn't know that for the longest time. So as soon as somebody told me, I was like, right, next con we go to, I need to get these comics and start from the beginning and find out what happens after the show ends.
Oh, so much stuff happens. I mean, I've read a little bit of them, but the little that I have read were very good. I've also read a lot of stuff that isn't canon. Like, I've got a Spike and an Angel omnibus. In fact, I've got the Spike one right here.
Yeah.
Look how thick that is. Look at it. Spiky goodness.
Oh my god, you've just taken away all my time now, because now I know there's a Spike book.
There's a canon Spike book as well. This is all the non-canon stuff. In fact, they make a joke about it when he's fighting some more puppets,
Oh, no.
Yeah, and they say, oh no, they're bringing out the canon. Oh, I hate the canon.
I'll have to look into that, definitely.
They have fun. There's a million trillion Buffy. You'd be wasting... Wait, no, not wasting. You'd be having a good time. But you'd be spending a lot of time hunting these down and reading them. But we're going to focus, because we've got a lot to get through, 7 seasons of goodness, on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I think we should start from the beginning. I am, of course, talking about the crappy movie.
No.
Yes! Yes!
I never planned to. I can't.
Oh, God, that movie. I mean, it's... Okay, crappy is a tad harsh. It's not terrible. But if you're a Buffy the Vampire Slayer proper fan, and you think, oh, I should watch the movie that started it all, thinking it's going to be like this prequel pilot sort of thing for the show, that's not the case. If you want to see Paul Rubens overact,
There's one thing it's seriously missing that will never be able to beat the actual show for, and that's Spike.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, you lose if you don't have Spike.
Yeah, well, hey, they got along without him for 1 season, and, most of season 3, so, Yeah, okay. I can see where your loyalties lie, jeez.
100%.
Yeah, but it was an interesting idea, the idea that the typical blondes usually first to die in a horror film turns out to be the hero sort of idea. And obviously, I think there was a lot of studio interference. This is why Joss Whedon wasn't happy. Apparently, he really did not like Donald Sutherland. Okay. And we upgraded, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Nothing against Donald Sutherland, but he can't compare to Anthony Stewart Head.
Oh, no.
He just can't. He just can't. And but there was, I think, talking about the comics quickly, there was like a Buffy prequel comic, which I think took some elements from the movie, but sort of upgraded and obviously made it fit into Buffy proper a bit better. So have you seen that one? Read that one?
I haven't, but I imagine it would kind of be like what Joss wanted to do, I guess, with the film. I've heard like really mixed reviews about it, and that's why I haven't gone to it yet. I've heard good and bad things. I think for me, I like the idea of it just as like the birthplace of Buffy. It's the thing that eventually gave us Buffy and helped Joss to, I guess, realize that actually maybe it hadn't gone quite as he wanted, but it was a really cool idea and that he should keep going with it. So I guess I can't slate it too much.
Yeah. And as I say, it gave us the gift of Buffy proper, which I shall now, from now on, refer to as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because that's all it is. And so Buffy had a very weird start. There was an unaired pilot. Have you seen the pilot?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I have.
It's Joss Whedon referred to it as complete and utter crap, and watching it, I think that is a tad harsh, but it's definitely Buffy the Vampire Slayer would never have taken off if that pilot had been the actual pilot. Let me put it that way. And it's got a lot of characters and actors that we've seen before. Willow was played by a different actor.
No.
Oh yeah, yeah. And don't worry. She wasn't as good. Relax.
She couldn't be.
She could. No.
Sorry, like Willow's one of my all-time favourites, so that really upsets me that it could possibly have not been Alison.
They hadn't met Alison Hannigan yet, so it's not their fault. But the point is, they looked and thought, okay, this isn't going to work. They changed it, and we got Buffy, which was a mid-season replacement.
Really?
But yeah, I can't remember what it was replacing. I don't know what it was replacing. But it came in literally just as, oh, we need something to fill up the time. What's this thing? Oh, it's some guy called Josh? Is that Josh? Is that misspelled? I don't know. But he's got something called, like, Muffy the Vampire Slayer. That'll do. And that's why it's the first season. It's only 12 episodes.
Yeah.
That's why it's the shortest thing. And I often wonder what Buffy, the first season 1, would have been like if it had
more.
A full season. But then again, what we got was really good.
It was so good. I think I'm constantly surprised at how well season 1 has aged. Like, yeah, there's a lot of the typical 90s stuff that doesn't really translate well to this time. The same kind of issue that Friends is going through with millennials right now, where
I'm hearing a lot of stuff about Friends, about how they really don't like a lot of the jokes, even though for the time it was ahead of its time and quite progressive, and now people are really starting to. And I sort of get that, because it's basically just 25 minutes of people insulting each other.
Yeah.
But then again, we're British, so we like that. That's how we treat our actual friends. So
it's hard. I've started rewatching Friends. Well, not rewatching it, but kind of trying to finish it, because I never finished it. Recently.
Wait, what?
I never finished it because this is back in the day you couldn't get Friends online. You had to buy it or you couldn't get it. So we bought up to season 7. I was collecting it. I've got that next to me as well, because we moved some of my collector's stuff. We were collecting that, and we got right up to season 7. I used to get like one of either Buffy or Friends every birthday or Christmas. And we got up to season 7, and then I don't know, I think I just like aged out of me and mum having the time to sit down and watch something every Saturday. So and I think they went up in price as well. It used to be like really cheap when we first started collecting, and then as Friends like started getting popular again, suddenly the box sets were really expensive, even individually.
I mean it's been off the air for longer than it was on the air at this point. Jeez.
But I never finished it, and I've been like really trying to avoid. I know like certain things that happen, but I don't actually know how it ends. So I'm working on going back.
Spoiler:
to that.
Joey gets abducted by aliens.
I wouldn't put it past him. But I can kind of see where they're coming from. I think it's a bit harder for like our generation, because we were like bridging between the two.
Yeah, we're in a weird sort of gap between like I don't know, like the Y generation or the X generation or the millennials or whatever it is. Because I mean, born in 1992, I remember the millennium, but I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I appreciate Friends for what it was and the game changer that it was. I will admit that a lot of it. I mean, I've watched all of it multiple times, and I liked it, and I've laughed at it. It's not something I would ever really go back to right now, although I am sort of hurting for genuinely good sitcoms and comedies nowadays, because now Community is gone. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't
Even
know.
that gap right now, you've finished something and now there's a hole in your life.
Yeah, I'm in a void, an endless void of just
The worst.
mediocrity. Yeah, but back to Buffy, back to Buffy.
Yeah.
So that's why it was shorter. So we sort of reintroduced to Buffy. The great thing about this show is you don't need to have seen the movie in order to understand it. It tells you pretty much everything you need to know about her. She's in every single generation. There is one, the Slayer, the Chosen. It's she alone who will defeat all the vampires. Blah 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 blah. Blah, chosen one. And yeah, that's pretty much all you need. And what's weird about this is I think it was this and season 2, possibly season 3, I can't remember, that had a slightly different theme song.
It did?
Yeah, it was like a slightly... Maybe it's just that I went insane or something. It's entirely possible. Sometimes I don't know whether what I'm saying really happened or actually I'm just making it up. But I swear the theme song was slightly different. It was like a slightly different way of it. It was like no, 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 no. And
Yeah,
later on it was like wow, 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 or something.
yeah, now what you say it actually, I think it was like a little bit faster or a little bit higher pitch. Yeah, actually, thinking about it.
So I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Those
I
men
never
in white
noticed
coats
it.
were wrong.
I never noticed it, but now what you actually say it, I'm like, wait, no, it did a bit. I'm sure it did. Maybe we're both mad.
Yeah.
Now we're thinking
We're
about
in
it,
the
we're like
right place
creating
for
it in
it.
our heads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, the show is insane. I mean, we get introduced to Buffy and her mum. We also meet Xander and your favourite Willow.
So adorable.
So, I mean, Xander, I relate to Xander so much.
Yeah. I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier, and I feel like at least in the early seasons, I'm like quite a good mix of Xander and Willow. I feel like if I was ever in that world, I'd be very Xander in that I'd fall in love with all the bad guys, and I would be I would die. I would probably die. I'd be worse than Xander. I'd be dead like episode 2.
If we were in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, we would both be dead. Well, actually, say you might be dead. I wouldn't be because I would never leave the house.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lonely bastard. But, yeah.
I'd be probably a vampire because I always like the really bad characters in shows. So imagine if I lived in that world, I'd be like, God, he's really cute, really pale, but
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm a vampire.
That's how it happens. But I mean, speaking of bad people, the very first scene, we're introduced to one of the bad guys for the season. There's a guy and a girl, they sneak into school, and the guy's like, come on, this will be really cool. And she's like, I don't know, I'm really scared. Oh my God, did you hear something? No, I didn't hear anything. Really? Because I heard something! Nom, 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 nom. And that's Darla. Holy
Darla
crap.
was awesome. Oh my God. I think every 90s kids that watched Buffy wanted to be Darla.
And yet she was only in the show for a few episodes.
She was a little bit wasted, yeah.
I mean, the season was shorter, but considering the pivotal role that she sort of plays in the lore of the show and what happened to her later on, it's amazing that we got so little of her. But of course, I mean, if you can get Julie Benz back in your show, you get Julie Benz back in your show. Yeah, this is why Dexter shouldn't have murdered her, because, I mean, come on.
Well, I think the thing is, like you said, it's such a short season, and with Buffy, every season is always like about the build up to the big bad, and it's like I think it was so short that they could have done more with Darla, but it was more ramping up to the Master and seeing, she was like, rather than being her own like mini villain, like she would have been in a longer series, she was just like one of the Master's cronies.
Yeah,
like
and of course a little bit of a explanation of why Angel is the way Angel is.
Yeah.
We'll get to Angel in a second. Let's talk about the Master. Contrary to what I thought when I first heard of him, not the character from Doctor Who. He's not that guy. He doesn't have a beard. He doesn't have a laser screwdriver. He is fucking evil, though. And he's the best. He's the best kind of evil, because he's sort of like that classic evil in that he's all about taking over the world and evil. He looks monstrous and he's like, my minions will soon destroy the Slayer. Yeah. But he's also kind of funny, kind of charming, a little bit scary. And I don't want to say he's one-dimensional, but if he was, he would be the best kind of one-dimensional, He's evocative of like classic Hollywood and stuff like that, as opposed to like evil by today's standards, which is like no motivation, no backstory. He's just like, oh, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, and just here.
It's the difference between like Dracula and that dark elf character from Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
No.
Definitely. Fun fact, I was absolutely petrified of the Master as a younger kid. I don't know how old I was when I started watching Buffy. Probably too young.
Probably a few.
But
I mean, I started watching it when I was in university. I started watching it like, okay, I've really got to commit to this, and I powered through it. In over 3 years, I finished 7 seasons, which I'm pretty proud of.
yeah.
So I never, because I mean, when it first started airing, I was way too young, and even when it finished airing, I was probably still too young. So showing my age here, but it's so yeah. It's. I think that's the great thing about it is that years later, when I was in like 18, 19, 20, I could still watch it and
Still
enjoy it.
enjoyable. Yeah.
I mean, as much as it is dated in that sort of 90s way, I mean, it's dated the way like Star Trek is dated. Like you can still
Charmingly
watch
dated.
it. Charmingly dated. I like, or even better like dated. This is again, I keep on mentioning this show on Podcapers is the Orville and how that harkens back to the classic The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and stuff like that. And yet it's sort of the way it does that is makes it feel sort of timeless. And so maybe it shows that actually just it's dated, but also it's better than what we've fucking got now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot watching Buffy, like especially the early seasons. It's just I don't know, maybe it's because we are like 90s kids, it's that we can relate to that. So I can see why maybe people younger than us would watch it and be like, okay, like
they grew up on the
crazy.
CW. They don't know what good is.
We're like watching it just like their school is crazy, their lifestyle is crazy. How do they not have phones? Like,
yeah, that's actually why I started watching Teen Wolf, because I thought maybe it would be like a modern day Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Spoiler alert, it's not.
yeah.
I mean, eventually I just stuck with it because I like the guy who plays Styles, Dylan O'Brien, just because I like him, so I'll stick with it. Yeah. In fact, no, if you want a modern day Buffy the Vampire Slayer, watch fucking Carmilla. That's last time we were on this, I think we talked about it a bit. I talk about it many times. Fucking watch Carmilla because that is it's so good. Sticking to Buffy.
I watched a few episodes of the new Van Helsing show from Netflix. I don't think we watched much because we were in between so many seasons of stuff. And from the limited bit I saw, it has potential for me to go back to it when I have time to watch something new, because it kind of had some like Buffy feels, I felt. But
is that the one where her name is Vanessa Helsing?
yeah.
The show is still called Van Helsing, but
Yeah.
no one calls her Van. That's the only criticism I have of it. I mean,
Yeah,
I
found that weird.
I watched the pilot and I thought, wow, this is dark and a little bit boring. Yeah. Oh, actually, I'm talking about Winona Earp. There's another. Why do we? Sorry. I love Winona Earp. Winona Earp is like a modern day Buffy. It's awesome. It's cool. I love it. Yeah. No vampires in it that I can remember yet, but it's. I'm just gonna try and not get so sidetracked because we're still on season 1.
Season one. Okay.
So we introduced a few. Obviously, we introduced to Giles as well, whom I love, who is the epitome of all things English and awesome.
He's so awkward in season 1. It's gold. Once you're used to him later on and you go back to watch it, you're just like, oh, Giles.
Oh, bless him.
You're struggling so much.
Bless. We do like him, old Rupert Giles. The most British name ever. Jeez. We're also introducing a couple of sort of semi-important mild characters, side characters. Some of them get much more important later on. Like Cordelia. Cordelia didn't really get important until the end of the series. That's when, oh crap, there's vampires. And guess she's part of the Scooby Gang now. And problem is, for her, for the most of the season, she's just there to be like the mean girl for Buffy. That's basically it. But she gets better. Then she gets much, much better, and then things get a bit weird, and then she's gone, and then she's back, and then she's gone again. Yeah, that's Angel.
I know. Wasn't Buffy originally auditioned for Cordelia?
Really? Oh.
Yeah. She was auditioned to be the mean
Sarah
girl.
Michelle Gellar as I mean, I could see her doing that, but
I heard that's how they found her, is that she came on audition for the mean girl, and they took one look at her and were like, Buffy. Like,
okay. Well, I was just going for the main part, but if you think I should be the lead, okay.
Yeah. I found that out, I think, during some of the like Buffy's 20th when you're doing all these extra interviews. And I was the same. I was like, what? No, I can see her as Cordy. No, that's wrong. That's so wrong. Like,
Because
doesn't
Chris
work.
Carpenter does such a great job as that role, and also with the slightly deeper stuff later on, especially with a relationship with Xander and all that sort of stuff, and later on Angel. That is weird. You see, I saw a few of those interviews for the anniversary, and I mean, kind of cool. That was really cool to see them all together again, even though Anthony Stewart Head couldn't be there. I can't remember.
Yeah, that was the downer on that. I was like, "Where's Giles?"
He was in another country. He had engagements. He wanted to be there. He and Sarah Michelle Gellar had a very nice, very sweet tweet exchange.
Yeah, I saw that. That was so cute.
Yeah. The only real downer of those interviews was the fact that Nicholas Breden had to be sort of separated from the rest.
I know. I did laugh at that. It took me like half the thing to notice, and I was like, "Oh, that's really weird. He doesn't get along with the others. I can't believe he's there." And I was like,
they stuck him with Emma Caulfield. And...
when I like it zoomed in on him the next time, I was like, "Hang on a minute. He wasn't sat next to Anya a minute ago in the group. Hang on." Like, only just clicked, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's awkward."
Wow. I mean, geez. I mean, they pretty. I don't know exactly what went on with him after Buffy or during Buffy.
Bit crazy.
Bit crazy. Career didn't go exactly how he would have preferred, but
I know he upset a lot of fans, which is just not.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
The best.
I mean, he still turns up to conventions apparently, and still engages with fans a bit.
I think that's, from what I've heard anyway, part of the problem is his interaction with fans. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shame,
but the rest of them showed up, and it was great. We got to see the actor that plays Joyce Summers again. That was really nice. And Armin Shimmerman, I think he got back. Was he on the interviews? He played Principal Snyder.
Not the ones I watched, but I only watched one, I think.
Okay, I literally just watched a couple of clips, and it was just nice to see James Masters, David Boreanaz, Michelle Gellar, and Seth Green, and everyone back. And it's so sweet to hear what's her face, person who plays Tara. I do know her name.
Oh, I don't know her name.
I do know her name, but my brain has suddenly decided to stop working. Talking about Tara's death and how she wasn't aware this whole trope of LGBTQIA characters getting killed off was a thing.
Yeah.
And so it was like, actually, I think it was more like the case of, she didn't realize that was a real trope. And Buffy, for all its good and positive stuff about LGBTQI people, did sort of, if not start that trope, then certainly propelled it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but then, and like...
This is right when that was trope was first getting started. Now we know it's a stereotype, so...
Yeah, it probably wasn't happening so much then because there wasn't exactly that much representation then.
Yeah.
But just to skip way ahead by saying this, I am glad that they at least kept Willow gay after they did that. They didn't do the whole she started straight and then realised that she was attracted to women and then didn't do the whole we're going to kill Tara off and now she's going to get back with a dude. Like,
yeah,
so it could have been worse.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it was bad. I think if that stereotype didn't exist, no one would complain about what happened to Tara, and we will get onto that later.
Yeah.
But it does. But you know, it is what it is, and it's not like we didn't cause an emotional reaction out of people because we cared about Tara. She must be protected. But man, other side characters I want to point out for season 1 are Amy, the witch. She pops up a couple of times. We'll talk about her a bit more later on. And Harmony, played by...
I forgot about Harmony. Oh no.
Who could forget Harmony? Dear God.
She was
the breakout character, jeez. Because she starts off as part of Puddygeeks' gang, as one of the mean girls. She evolves...
The only good thing about Harmony was that she was always entertaining for how over-the-top stupid they made her. Every scene that she was in, she was just like, huh? Like, that at least was always entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, yes, pretty much. And also we got introduced to Jenny Calendar, sweet Jenny Calendar, who... bad stuff happens in season 2, but we'll get onto that in a second.
Still hurts so many years later.
Oh God, it does. But season 1, they get up to numerous exploits. One of my favorite ones is the one where Principal Flutie gets fucking eaten.
Hyenas. Oh, that's such a good. I was going to mention that, but I was just like looking at my DVDs and trying to remember if it was season 1 or 2. That's a great episode. Still so good so much later.
Yeah.
The other one was. Is there like all the ones with Xander getting with things? We'll say creatures.
Oh,
Is that all season 1 or 2? I can't remember.
that is spread out over multiple seasons, pretty much until season 3. Oh, even then. I didn't think of this one.
Praying Mantis Lady was season
Praying
1.
Mantis Lady. Season 2 was the Inca Lady, I think.
Yeah.
The guy has
Xander gets
no
such a hard
luck.
time.
Oh,
And then he gets turned into a hyena man, and
even his good relationship is with like a former demon.
yeah, I know.
Oh god.
Look, just to come back to that hyena episode, the only thing that was like really, I rewatched season 1 recently, so season 1 is quite fresh in my brain because I was gonna rewatch all of Buffy on the 20th anniversary when that started, and I just have not had the time. I got through 1, and I was just like, I can't keep doing this.
40-minute episodes. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. But I did get through season 1, so I rewatched the hyena episode not so long ago. Was the whole like season 1, the whole thing with Xander having the big crush on Buffy and like not being able to tell her and trying to think of a way to tell her, and it's like horribly awkward the whole season. Is that when he goes all hyena and he like pins Buffy down and is trying to do his whole bad boy thing, and Buffy's like, bitch, please.
Oh, I'm the Slayer. You can't step to me.
That whole scene, rewatching it at this age, I was like, oh, Xander, no. Like, and he gets
Hyena
to the end of
curse.
the
It's not his
episode
fault.
and just pretends he doesn't remember anything. And Buffy's like, I'm fine with this. Let's just like pretend it didn't happen.
Oh,
Rewatching that as an adult, I
the
feel so bad.
uncomfortable levels, especially in
Yeah.
later seasons, actually. And it's complicated further with her love life with the introduction of Angel. Oh my. God. And so, I mean, it's the classic sort of, oh my god, she's the person that's going to destroy all vampires, and he's a vampire. Ah, star-crossed. But, I mean, the relationship did get genuinely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, they just had such good chemistry. And it was so cool. I was really worried when I first saw him because it's like, oh, he's a typical sort of bad boy. Oh, he's a brooding loner. And, he gives her a little cross. But he's also like dressed in black and white. So he's sort of, and his name's Angel.
Tormented.
It's evocative of so many different, like, guy stereotypes. So he just sort of forms his own thing. He is Angel, motherfuckers.
But then kind of so is Buffy. Like, I love the way they make her like really, for the time at least, really fashion forward, and you know, she wants to be out doing her hair, and she gets annoyed when she chips her nails and that, and you're a bit like,
cheerleading and stuff like that.
yeah, but yet she'll also kick your ass. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, and it's that's always cool. And then she fucking dies.
Yeah, and then she dies. Yeah.
And then she dies. She has like a brief encounter with the anointed one, who is pointless.
I just don't understand him.
There's a kid that the vampires are saying, he's the anointed one, he's important. He turns up a couple of times, speaks with the master, because he's like a little vampire kid who just sits there. And then he doesn't get killed at the end of season 1, and in season 2 someone else comes along and kills him off, and like it's pointless. It's pointless. Buffy dies.
It's the biggest anti-climax, the whole thing of the anointed kid. You were waiting for him to do something big, and he just kind of lingers around and watches other people be bad the whole time.
I'm special. Fine. It's as I say, pointless. Utterly pointless. But Buffy gets resurrected after dying. She kicks the master's behind, and considering he's like this big, scary, centuries-old vampire that's like a permanent vampire face. That's how evil he is. And they were so evil they had to be trapped like in the Hellmouth. Mm-hmm. Like,
he's not that hard.
not that. I mean, he gets taken care of. Let's be honest. And it's a good climax. In fact, I really like it when Buffy's like in a like half-drowned prom dress and she's jumping ready for it. She's like, "Oh look, a bad guy." That's so cool! Ah!
The moment every girl wanted to be Buffy.
I wanted to be Buffy in that moment, jeez. I don't think I could pull off the dress. I don't have the legs for it, but still. It's
iconic.
It was
That outfit, that moment, it's like honestly, it's my favorite Buffy cosplay to see. It's the white prom dress and the black leather jacket. It's too cool.
It is so cool. But things get even cooler because season 2 is when we get Spike and Drusilla!
And Spike, I have to say, has like the best entrance to any show ever. Like the running over the Sunnydale sign and just getting out and being like, yeah, I'm here. It's amazing.
Spike in the house. Oh god, the phenomenon around, as cool as season 1 was, cool as Buffy is, as cool as Angel is, as cool as Giles and Oz and everyone is, Spike.
Yeah.
I've got a Funko Pop of him. Hold on.
You can get a Funko Pop of him? Why did I not know this? I need to get that.
He's got a little mug of blood that says "Kiss the Librarian."
Oh, he's so cute. Oh, it's ridiculous.
I'm gonna put because the weird thing, he is cool, he is funny, he is interesting, he is complex, he is stylish, he is William the Bloody.
Yeah, a little bit demented at certain points, but it goes a little bit far. We'll say in certain episodes, you go from being like, oh, he's so cool to, okay, so he's kind of a psychopath, but he's still cool.
Yeah, I mean that's the great thing. He is so cool and he's so likable, but he is a vampire and he is evil. I mean, the big bad of the season, all the villains sort of go by the big bad, if you will, and it's him and Drusilla. Now Drusilla, as cool as Spike is, Drusilla I think was meant to be evocative of a slightly much older vampire. If the Master is Dracula, then Drusilla is Lucy Westenra. She's that sort of crazy, eerie, bloofer lady sort of, hello, I seem really nice and childlike, but I'm going to drain you of blood.
I don't know. Drusilla is always up and down with me, I feel like. I never have a consistent opinion on her. It just depends where I'm at. Some days I'm just a bit like, oh, okay, I get it, you're weird, and okay.
We get it,
I
Drusilla.
also they could have done more with her I know she has a few evil, horrible moments, but I feel like I really wanted to see her
she's crazy in a cinematic way, indicative of anyone with an actual mental instability. She's just she's movie crazy basically, which means a light, airy voice and a general menacing presence, and that's about it. Although for the first couple of episodes she doesn't have a menacing presence because she's not well, according to Spike.
That's them just starting it off to make a point of the fact that she's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, she's another one of those characters a bit like Darla that almost serves as more of a plot point than anything, and they don't really make enough use of her to just...
I mean, as Darla was part of Angel's backstory, she is also part of Angel's backstory, but to an even lesser degree, because Darla's the one that sired Angel, but Drusilla is just some random person that he tortured into a sanity and then turned into a vampire.
Yeah. I think she's just there for your first hint before all of the stuff that happens in season 2, to be like, oh yeah, by the way, when Angel was bad, he was real bad.
Oh yeah, and it does drive that really point home.
And you're like, ooh.
He was so bad, he had a mustache. God.
I quite I must say, the dynamic with Spike and Drusilla. I don't know why it works, it just does. But I like for its time that it's quite good at switching up the gender roles now and then. It doesn't do... It starts very classic of she's all innocent and crazy and she needs her very vicious, crazy boyfriend to look after her, and she has her bad days and all of this. But throughout that season and all seasons that you see them together, it's up and down. It's one of them, at times Spike is weaker and he needs Drusilla to be the strong one.
It's a very Lady Macbeth sort of dynamic in a way.
It goes up and down, and that's, for its time, really cool to see.
Yeah. It would have been so easy just for her to be a secondary player to Spike the whole time. But no, she can hold her own, and things only get worse when the full explanation of Angel happens. You see, Angel, for those of you who don't know, is a vampire, but he's on the side of good because he has a soul, because he got cursed by a bunch of gypsies. It happens. Deal with it. And that's pretty much how the show puts it. And it turns out the only thing that can cure him of this, i.e. take away his soul, is one moment of pure happiness. Now, what could one moment of pure happiness possibly be? Is it possible for any one human being to achieve a pure state of 100% concentrated bliss? Turns out, it's sex with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Okay, slightly less poetic than I would have imagined, but...
A little bit creepy, considering he's like 200 years old and she's like 16, and his pure moment of happiness is sex with a 16-year-old. That's...
Well, he got turned when he was like 17, 18, or around that year, but...
Well,
yeah.
Apparently. We hope.
Dear God, I hope so, yeah. And, oh God, it's a bit weird, but then again, the relationship has been building up to it at that point. We've had a season plus of this sort of stuff. This happened like midway through the season. So we just thought, we're just getting used to Spike and Drusilla being the bad guys. And maybe with a little sprinkling of Ethan Rayne. Oh, Ethan Rayne, love him.
Oh, he's so creepy.
Yeah.
It just made me remember him. Oh.
He's just like, he's bad Giles is what he is.
Yes. And I love the little hints they start giving you around Ethan being around of like, Giles wasn't always so good. And you're like, what?
He used to be called Ripper.
That Giles? Oh, okay. This is interesting.
Bad boy. Oh. But however bad Ethan or Giles used to be, Angel, or once he loses his soul, Angelus. He's a fucking monster.
He's messed.
And you see him doing bad stuff. We see him horribly mistreating people, obviously, and it's very bad. It culminates in the death of Jelly Canada. He stages it. He stages like Giles coming home, the rose petals leading up to the bedroom, and her bloodied corpse on the bed.
It's bad. I must say, out of all the sad and like hard things to watch in Buffy, it's one of the things all these years later I still struggle to watch that episode, even though I know it's coming. That scene is so emotionally charged, and they really want you to feel that change in Angel. It's so different.
He's not Angel anymore. He's not Angel anymore. And
they do it in like a serial killer way. They take it in like a direction you don't see them take any other vampire ever. They're just like, you introduce a vampire, they kill a few people, and it's always randoms, and it's like, they've killed people, they're really evil. But with Angel, it was like, they showed you he was manipulative, and that he would, the extra length he would go to hurt somebody, but it just isn't normal of a vampire.
I mean, with Drusilla, he could have just killed her, or he could have just turned into a vampire. He killed every single member of her family, made her run away to a convent and become a nun, and the day she became a nun, he turned her into a spawn of hell. That's how his mind works. It's not just about hurting you, it's about hurting you.
Hey, but didn't they say in that episode, the thing that stuck with me, like the first time I realized during that episode, I was like, holy shit, like Angel was like next level evil, was them talking about obviously Drusilla and everything that happened to her, and he can't remember who it was that says this at some point, but that he like nailed a puppy to some girl's door or something, and you're like, gee, that's like that's so far into psychopath. My brain can't even comprehend that. Like,
and as the series goes on, and as the rest of the show goes on, and Angel goes on, we learn more and more about what he was like, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And oh god, and so
conversations with Buffy that you have throughout that series are just the level of torment and emotional torture in their conversations. It's actually uncomfortable to watch.
When it comes to emotions, this show likes to just take a corkscrew to its audience's prefrontal cortex and just turn and turn and turn.
It's even now, it's a hard season to watch, going through it and just watching it, like the build up of how much you're like, this just sucks, and I don't know how you keep making it suck more. Like,
but there is an upside. We get Xander and Cordelia! Because, I mean, as weird as an idea as that sound, the stereotypical mean girl and the jokey, wisecracking sidekick getting together, They made it work.
It works. Somehow it works.
And they both grew as characters in that relationship. It did lead to what I think is one of the worst episodes of Buffy. The one where, I don't know if it was this season or season 3, the one where they break up, and so Xander in revenge decides to make Cordelia fall hopelessly in love with him. So the spell backfires, and every other woman in the town falls hopelessly in love with him.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
So awkward.
It's hilarious,
So
and it's awkward, and it's funny, but it really made me dislike Xander.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, he's had his heart broken by Cordelia. She breaks up with him because of peer pressure. Oh no, kids, stay away from that. And so in revenge, he just goes to Amy and says, hey, make me a spell so I can crush her heart. Like, that is horrible. I get that he is crushed and he is really upset, but that's a horrible, horrible thing to do. And it turns out, no, she was in love with him the whole time, and they get back together, and she learns to, ignore her ex-friends, I guess, and just, stick with Xander. And it was a good ending, but it really, 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 really made me... And I think it had I don't know whether it was like, whether it's like the people writing it had a very weird take on love, or they were trying to make all the other characters that fall in love with Xander not actually be in love with him, but actually be like in lust with him and make them actually crazy. Because if it was the former, then that really... Because like half these women decide to kill him / Cordelia because they're so in love with him. And like, that's a weird perspective to have.
I feel like I always took it as the spell was more of a lust thing, if I'm honest. I don't know why. I just kind of immediately was like, okay, so it's like, this amateur witch has made everybody want to bang him instead of being in love with him.
Even adults.
I also felt a little bit like it was trying to play on the whole like teenage feelings thing. I wasn't sure if they were trying to do the whole like, they're very young and the idea of love at this age is a bit skew-iff and there's a lot of hormones and everybody's a little bit weird at this age. But the thing I found most frustrating from this episode is it felt like Cordelia grew so much more than Xander, who just didn't seem to learn anything from the experience.
Maybe manipulating someone's mind for petty revenge isn't a good thing, Xander. Did you think about that?
And he just does not seem to be able to manage his own emotions.
Yeah.
And it's something that's always bugged me with Xander. He's such an enjoyable character, but his emotional range doesn't ever seem to grow, or his ability to deal with other people's feelings. He's just very like, everything is a joke, and as soon as it gets too serious, I'm gonna run. And then like he never seems to grow out of that. It's really frustrating. In all the other ways he grows.
I think we've known people like Xander that have never really grown up, but at the same time, like with a show like this, we do want our characters to develop and stuff. But it was still nonetheless a very interesting relationship, and it was really cool. And also, we get a bit of Stirring's relationship for Willow with Mr. Daniel Osborne.
Oh, my favourite relationship in the whole of Buffy is these two. It's just
okay.
perfect.
I said earlier that I related to Xander, at least when he was being joking funny, not when he was being emotionally manipulative. But Oz was the character I wanted to be.
Yeah.
At least until Spike got a bit more prominence. But because he is so cool, but he doesn't even try. He's just really nice and really soft-spoken, and
Chill.
he's a friend. I want him in my life. I want a friend like that.
I know, and him and Willow, it's the cutest thing, and it almost feels like it shouldn't work, but it really does.
When nerds find love.
When nerds find love with, like, yeah, okay, Oz is chill, and he's all of this, but he's almost this, like, weird mix of cool and not cool, if that makes sense. Like, if you look at him in a real school situation, his character, so all the things we like about him, that he's calm, and he's softly spoken, and all of that, and the people he makes friends with kind of makes him in, like, the geek camp. But he's in a band and he wears black nail polish and is kind of a skater boy type look. And you're like,
and he named his band Dingoes Ate My Baby.
Which is amazing. But yeah, he's almost like the cool kid, and Willow's really geeky and awkward. But I don't know, that calmness from Oz almost just seems to really work with how awkward and stressed out she gets, and it's so cute to watch.
I think the best example of Oz is, I think it was a season 3 episode where Buffy, because of demon blood or something, gets the ability to listen on people's thoughts.
Yes.
And with Xander, it's all like, oh no, sex with Buffy, Xander, is that what you think about? But with Oz, she listens on Oz and things like, if Buffy listens on my thoughts and I am my thought, that means Buffy becomes me and I cease to exist. He's just having his own little introspective, philosophical, existential breakdown. It's so interesting. Yeah.
I know. And the cuteness of Willow reacting to that as well when she realizes Buffy's listening to him, and she's like, oh no, she can hear Oz's thoughts. I never know what Oz is thinking. I hate that Buffy can hear this. Why don't I know what he's thinking? It's like freaking out. It's so cute.
It's so cool. And yeah, he's a werewolf.
Yes.
Now he's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, he's adorable. I love the initial build up to their relationship, the few times that Oz sees Willow.
And you can tell right from the very start that they're going to end up together, but they just keep missing. I just want to. I'll give you a visual representation. Sorry for all the capers listening, but okay. So here I've got my Funko Pop of Spike here, and I've got my little figure of R2D2. So I'm going to take these two. Spike is now Willow, and R2D2 is Oz. Now kiss. That's my feelings. That's my feelings.
It's so cute to watch, though. I love the dynamic. You know they're going to be good together straight away from that introduction, because nobody seems to see Willow, and she's so stressed about getting Xander to see her at that point.
Yeah.
And then there's just Oz, who just is like mystified by her. It's so adorable, and he just keeps, every time he sees her, he's like, who is that girl? And you're like, oh, my heart.
Did they actually get together in this season, or was that season 3?
I think it's this season.
Okay, because there's a whole thing between Xander and Willow. It's oh yeah, but that happened while she was with Oz.
Oh, I hate that. That's the one thing that really annoys me that they did in this, was coming back to the.
I think that's season 3. So
we'll
get onto that. We'll get onto that, and yeah. So there's really not much else to talk about season 2. I think we've gone over the main. Oh no, there's Jonathan. We've got about Jonathan.
I don't remember much of Jonathan in that season.
Well, he was in season 2 and season 1. He popped up from time to time. A bit more in season 3. I liked Jonathan until they ruined him, but we'll get onto that. I just want to mention him so capers remember that name, Jonathan.
And the other thing was 2 had one of the most emotional endings to any series.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh god. The music in that episode, the Buffy Angel theme, I have to say, is one of the most amazing pieces of music.
Music in this show is just great all around, but we'll talk more about the music later. You know what I'm thinking. But season 2 ends with Buffy defeating Angelus and sending him back to hell right as he gets his soul back.
It's back to being Angel, and it's horrific.
Poor timing, Buffy. Poor timing, Buffsters. Spike and Drusilla get away, and this show does everything like a second series should. It takes the established awesomeness and just amps it up. Like, we see Buffy with a bazooka in this episode, in this season. Cool. It's awesome. It's awesome. But as much of an upgrade as it was, season 3 upped it up even more. Now, I've heard people say that season 3 is like perfect, and I rarely use that word, but if I was going to use that word, it probably would apply to season 3. It starts off, Buffy is, I think she's in LA, and she's like, she's hiding away from her responsibilities, and it's like a triumphant return later, and then Angel comes back. That's a whole thing. But the big thing I want to talk about, there's lots of little things we'll talk about later. The big thing I want to talk about is the mayor and Faith. Now, in season 1, Buffy died. And every time a Slayer dies, a new one gets chosen, if you will. Not necessarily born, but chosen. And season 2, it was Kendra that got chosen. She became a new Slayer until Drusilla cut her throat in a very creepy way. And so we get this, and another Slayer, another one, Faith. Oh, Faithy. She's
So many feelings with Faith.
so many mixed feelings. On the one hand, she's really cool. On the other hand, she's a bit of a
Psycho.
chaotic neutral sort of person in a way. It's a bit psycho, yeah. And she's Buffy. What would have happened to Buffy if Buffy had not had a proper mentor? If Buffy had a few less morals, a much harsher upbringing, less family, less friends. Faith is Buffy in every way that Buffy isn't. And initially, they're just going this in a way of like, oh, she's a bit more tough than Buffy, and she's a bit darker than Buffy, but she's not evil. Then the mayor comes to town. The mayor is one of the best television villains I have ever seen in the history of television ever, period. If you disagree with me, I will fight you!
No, I love the mayor. I think he's excellently written.
Because, I mean, he is a man who's lived for, I think, centuries. He's sort of like immortal at this point. He sold his soul, but he's like, the mayor, how to describe it, he's like a character from like the Andy Griffith Show. He's just like, harking back from this old like 50s time, but like he's like in a, oh, hey there, sport, why don't you may go fishing sort of way. And he's just really nice and gentle. Oh, but he is fucking evil.
Also evil.
Yeah. And it's weird. You wouldn't think those two would go together, but they manage it in a way like he treats everyone with respect and politeness and is like, hey, now, be nice. And I think the best way to describe it
be nice
is,
and then go kill towards
the last couple of episodes, he has a confrontation with like the Scooby Gang in the library, and he's talking about Buffy to Giles, and he's like, "Oh, that's a nice girl you've got there. I'm gonna eat her!" And then Giles fucking runs him through the sword, and the mayor's like, "Whoa, hey, maybe ease up on the violence in front of the children. Come on!" And he's so cool. It's so cool. And what's coolest about him is his relationship with Faith. Basically, Faith accidentally kills a human and reveals, actually, you know what? She doesn't care. Maybe she does care, maybe she doesn't, who knows, but she says she doesn't care. And she slowly falls under the influence of the mayor after Buffy and her friend and all her friends sort of like reject her and stuff. And the mayor, it could have been a dynamic of like he's controlling, he's influencing her, he's lying to her. But actually, you know what? He treats her with respect. He's kind to her, he's nice to her, he's caring. He seems to have a genuine affection for her. And even though he wants her to do his evil bidding, like, he's nice to her. Probably the only person that's ever been genuinely nice to her whole life.
Faith is really complex. I mean, she's been one of my favourite characters ever just because of how well she's written and the fact that she is up and down with what side she's on and what kind of person she is. I just think she's amazingly complex. And I disagree with a lot of Buffy fans over this because there's a lot of people that just look at her and they're like, Faith, yeah, she's evil. And I'm like, well, no, she's not. That's the point. Faith is like a victim. I always see her as kind of a victim of circumstance. She just, she's almost, I think she's more what every other Slayer is, because they often throughout Buffy say how fortunate she is to be in a normal home with a mum and going to school and having friends, and no other Slayers have this. So I've always considered Faith almost like the more real view of Slayers.
Yeah.
And then she's just had all this shit. She's got no family, and then when she first appears, she has that like female watcher who turns out to be evil.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
Serena Scott Thomas.
Wesley. Yeah, and then we have Wesley, who is an amazing character, but a terrible watcher.
Wesley Wyndham Price. Full
like,
name, thank you very much. You thought Giles was English. This guy.
And I think it's just like you said initially, she doesn't have that same set of morals, and she hasn't got the same background. So I never took her killing that person as being she doesn't care. I just always took that as like she's freaked out and she's panicking and she doesn't know how to deal with it on her own.
And it's easy for her to shut off her emotions rather than deal with the guilt.
Mm-hmm. And the whole relationship with the mayor is like her having that dad. I always just took that as a dad-daughter thing. Suddenly she has a home and somebody who cares about her and who will let her do whatever she wants and be fine with it, but also guide her and be happy to support her. And it's like suddenly she's got all this stuff. She doesn't feel judged. I don't see any evil in that.
Yeah.
And
Buffy, meanwhile, is judging her. She takes an understandably moralistic criticism of her, but at the same time, that only drives her further away. And it's very much like a much better version of Anakin Skywalker's fall to the dark side. It just in that sort of dynamic and how
it's so flawed.
She's so flawed, but that doesn't make sense, as you say, make her evil. It's just when she comes under the control of an evil person, and the mayor is fucking evil. His whole plan is to become a big snake god.
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing. He wants to become a snake god.
I just...
okay.
That kind of came out.
Yeah. You know what? You do you, Mayor. You do you. You want to become a snake god? You go out and you become a giant snake god. It's, fucking...
One of my favourite things in this season is the whole complicated... I don't know how far into the season you want to go this fast, but the whole complicated Faith shooting Angel with this arrow thing. The whole demise that comes from that of like, oh no, that's it, now she's definitely evil, and Buffy taking a very moral stance that, funnily enough, puts her very much in the same camp as Faith of being like, that's it, she's evil, she dies. Blows my mind every time I watch it. So I'm like, how are you such a hypocrite? I don't understand this.
Because these are real characters that are flawed and can make mistakes. Joss Whedon understands that. Everyone at Mutant Enemy who's working on this understood that. And that you can like these characters, but that doesn't mean agreeing with every single decision that they make or every single view that they have. And that's what means that's why Buffy has stood the test of time. Because she's not a one-note character, and none of them are. And we see all the characters, even the side characters, evolve in different ways, except perhaps Wesley Wyndham-Pryce, even though he did have a brief fling with Cordelia after the whole Xander-Willow thing. So Xander and Willow cheat on their respective partners with each other. I mean, it's sort of...
wrong.
It was... Yeah, I mean, again, I think this goes back to the, like, you don't have to agree with the character's decisions. Mm-hmm. So, because again, they're human, but yeah, I'm just glad that Willow and Oz were able to stay together for as long as they did.
Oh, yeah.
Xander and Cordelia, it was time. You know, I mean,
yeah, it had run its course.
Yeah, and she tried. What I like about it, she tries to get with Wesley Wyndham-Pryce, and they kiss, and it's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Bye.
It's so good. I love it.
Very good. Standout episodes for me, there's 3 of them. There's the witch hunt episode where Amy gets turned into a rat. Or she turns herself into a rat. And she stays like a rat forever. Well, not like forever, but for a long while.
Long time. It takes forever, doesn't it?
Yeah. The Band Candy episode, where we get to see Joyce and Giles acting like they were when they were teenagers.
So good. That's what I was just trying to find my season 3. Because I was like, is Band Candy this one? Because Band Candy is so good.
Seeing
teenage
thanks
Giles.
to Ethan Rayne, fucking Ethan Rayne, who's the same actor that played what's his face in Mass Effect.
Is he the elusive man?
No, not the elusive. That's Martin Sheen.
That's the voice I thought I recognised.
No, it's he plays the mercenary guy with the eye thing. I do know his name, but I can't remember. Zaid Masani, that's it. They play the same guy.
Oh, right, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But I haven't ever had him as DLC, so I know about him.
Yeah. Fucking EA and DLC. We won't go on to EA. That's a whole separate rant.
We'll be here all day.
We will be here all day. And the episode, also the other standout episode for me, is the one that introduces Anya in her demon form. It's sort of like a Days of Future, Past, Present sort of thing. Basically, Anya is a vengeance demon.
Oh, Doppelganger.
Doppelganger. Oh, yes! Was that Doppelganger? Was that... Right, okay, I was thinking something else.
That's Anya's thing, isn't it? That Cordelia wishes to that Buffy had never come to Sunnydale, and then she gets like taken to the alternative world where this is what it'd be like if Buffy never came.
Yeah, and the whole town has been taken over by vampires, and yet people still live there. Like, we got to get home after dark. It's like, why don't you fucking move? If you know the town has been taken over by vampires, fucking move. And we get to see evil Xander and evil Willow.
Evil Willow is so good.
Because normal Willow, good Willow, is like, oh, hey guys, hi, how you doing? And evil Willow is just like, hey.
Okay, there's one thing I don't like in this episode, and not because it shouldn't have been put in there. It breaks my heart to watch it every time. Oz slays Willow.
Yeah, well, it's alternate.
And it's heartbreaking. You're like, no.
It's from an alternate timeline. They didn't have the relationship. She was evil, you know?
I know, but you're also like, no, it's so wrong. It's so wrong for that to happen. I can't. I was like, if anyone else had killed her, it would have been fine. But I was like, no, what are you doing? I hated watching that.
Was it this episode, this season, where actually evil Willow comes back? She gets like sucked from the alternate dimension.
So good.
Interacts with
Real Willow.
Oh yeah, and it's the guy's reaction to the discovery that, oh my god, we think that Willow is a vampire is now like just like she was the best of us. And Xander was like, better than me, much better, yes. and it's something cool, and it's what I like about that is it's foreshadowing for later, because like Willow is like, oh my god, vampire me is kind of slutty, and I think I'm kind of gay.
Yeah.
I can't see what sort of foreshadowing.
Make out with human Willow, and you're like, this is confusing on every level. It's gold. And vampire Willow meeting the normal one, and she's in that like pink fluffy jumper and the horrible outfit, and vampire Willow is like, I'm fluffy. I'm so soft and fuzzy, and she's like so offended by it. God, it's just great.
It's like the show is giving like our own fanfic material. Like it's any weird idea that fans would like and would really enjoy seeing, the show already did. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Oh, it's so good. I just love it.
And the season climaxes with all of the classmates of the high school that are graduating, taking out weapons at the graduation when, you know, he turns into, the mayor turns into big snake demon god and vampires start attacking. What I like about it is, like, Sunnydale, especially with the high school students, it's always been like an undercurrent of, like, we're going to pretend like nothing weird is going on, but stuff weird is going on. Like, there's a scene in, I think it's this season, where one of the guys who dies, the guy who turns out later on to be gay, I can't remember his name, says, like, I swear, this year, our sports team is going to rule. If we stay on focused, work on our plans, and try not to have quite as many mysterious deaths, Sunnydale is going to rule. And to see the culmination of that...
And everyone's fine about it.
Everyone's fine about it, and they all start attacking the vampires. Cordelia stakes a vampire for the first time. Harmony gets turned into a vampire. She gets bitten by a vampire. Ooh. And, the mayor gets taken out in a hilarious and slightly weird way. He goes to the library, which turns out is stuffed full of explosives by Buffy and Giles. They blow it up, and he says, well, gosh. And then it's blown up. And it's like, okay. And then it's like they've blown up the school. And it's weird that a snake god could be taken out by explosives, but at the same time, like, it's pretty poetic that on their graduation they ended up blowing up their own school.
Yeah. It's an amazing episode. It's one of my favourite finales. There's so much to say about that I'm like struggling to think where I want to start. It's so good. The moment where they all whip out the weapons, it's one of the coolest
under the graduation
things they could have done. They just pull out like flamethrowers and stuff, and you're like, oh my god, this is happening.
They sat through the whole graduation ceremony with those hidden under those things, and they say like, he's gonna go through the whole speech, isn't he? He's pure evil.
Oh, it's just amazing, and we have the really cute Willow.
Snyder gets eaten.
Oh, that's the best part.
How many principals get eaten in the show? Jeez.
Yeah, he deserved to get eaten though. I
Yeah.
waited a long time for him to get eaten. like, but yeah, we have the whole beautiful Willow Oz moment of like them being afraid they're not going to make it. That's cute. I love that. It's the culmination of a lot of background characters getting involved as well. Like I said, the gay jock guy, Jonathan, Harmony gets involved. They're like bringing in a lot of characters. It feels like they've been building up to acknowledging, okay, this is a thing and it's always these guys.
Even Wesley Wyndham-Pryce tries to help and gets knocked out pretty quickly.
Immediately.
Help, I've fallen!
The other things I want to quickly say about this season is the whole Faith. I don't know how much spoilerific you want to go with this.
Oh, we can go with spoilers, but I did the spoiler intro at the start, so yeah, I mean, Faith's final confrontation with Buffy.
Oh god, it's agonizing to watch, and you kind of don't really know who you want to win, and it's bad. The coma thing is awful, where Buffy goes and says goodbye, and you kind of just, again, you don't know who you feel worse for because it sucks. Yeah. The amazing moment with the mayor trying to suffocate Buffy, and there's a little confrontation with Angel that like shows you like how crazy protective he is of Faith and like how genuine those feelings are. Like it's the first time you really, really see it, and you're like,
he refers to her as his little girl the whole time.
Yeah, and you realize how like genuine that is. All of that is amazing, and the little like scene with Buffy dreaming and she sees Faith and she's.
We even get an episode with Spike coming back. Drusilla's dumped him. He feels really bad. Sad Spike. When Spike is sad, we are all sad.
Oh, it's so good. The other episode we've missed in the season that's really good is the prom episode. I love this. It's just amazing. The acknowledgement from the whole school that something weird always goes on here, and Buffy always saves the day. And it's just, I loved that. I thought that was amazing. It was a great little addition to like have all of this stuff that's been going on actually be acknowledged and appreciated. I loved that. I thought that was great.
And so we get the mind listening in episode, and lots of really good things. There's so many standout episodes in this season. We really can't go on to it. But I think that also biggest thing, well, one of the bigger things is that Angel leaves the main cast, goes off to LA to start his own show. That's a talk for another day. We'll talk about Angel.
I haven't finished that either.
What?
I don't have time for all the things I want to watch.
It's only 5 seasons! Commit!
I've watched 3, I think. And then my mum ran out of time to watch it, and I was promised not to watch it without her. So it hasn't happened as yet.
No, you must never do that. When you're watching a show with someone else and they stop it, okay, well, those who stay behind get left behind. You know, Pirate Code!
It's very high on my list, but the reason I'm waiting now is I'm planning on trading in all of my Buffys, which is why they're out. I've got all the individual sets and they don't all match, and it annoys me. So I want to get rid of those and get the matching box set, which I bought them all in here planning to buy because it's now 40 quid, or it was the last time I looked, and I was like, it's affordable. But now it's had its 20th anniversary, it's 80 again. So I'm now going to have to wait years again to get. I've been waiting years for that to come down in price. Jeez. So I'm planning to get that and Angel. So I'm waiting to watch it, and I'm like, when I get that nice complete set of each of them, I am going to watch The Last of Angel then.
Capers, if you want to start a Kickstarter to help Kit get us Buffy and Angel DVDs, because this is a priority, people.
I'll get it, it's cool.
Here's the thing about season 3. It ended on a really good note. The characters all sort of got wrapped up. The show could have ended there. It could have ended on season 3. But they chose to continue with season 4. And so, thankfully, they did it, continued season 4 in the right way. The gang go off to college, but things aren't exactly the same. Giles is out of a job. Xander wasn't able to make it to college. Willow and Oz's relationship is developing, and Buffy feels lost and unsure of himself. And the first time, she doesn't really know what to do. Thankfully, we get a bunch of new stuff for us to play with. First of all, Harmony's a vampire now.
Yeah.
And she's with Spike. Spike is back!
This is the most interesting combination they've ever done.
Spike and Blondie Bear. Harmony and Blondie Bear.
It's just so good. There's so many good moments in it because it just doesn't work at all. So amusing. I love it. She's
It's
throwing all his stuff out. And what even is this band? He's like, how dare you? And she's like, Guns N' Roses, what even is this? And he's like, how old are you? Like,
oh,
so
it was never gonna work. It was never meant to be a serious thing. And they did make Spike a bit funnier in this season, but it works. It worked because this is a season where it introduced to the Initiative. It turns out, whilst Buffy was out slaying people, there's this bunch of like paramilitary science corporation people government thing, who are basically hunting down demons, studying them, and kill them, and all sorts of stuff, which makes sense in a world with this sort of thing. I mean, the US government, it's not going to take down an opportunity, ignore an opportunity to do that sort of thing. And so they put a chip in Spike that means whenever he tries to attack a human, he gets a sudden, sharp, searing pain in his brain. And it's fucking hilarious. Because he tries to eat people and he can't. And he turns up on Jars's doorstep in the middle of the day with like a blanket wrapped around him like, I can't eat people. I'm sick. I need help, please. And it's...
Oh, one of the best moments with him once he's out and about with this chip is him trying to eat Willow. And they treat it completely like erectile dysfunction moment. And she's
this
like,
can't happen to me. I'm only over 100 years old.
And she's like, maybe you're just tired.
I know I'm not the kind of girl that vampires like to bite. Oh, piffle, I bite you in a heartbeat. Oh, really? Yeah, remember last year with the pink number with the lilac? Really? Yeah, I wanted to murder you. It's funny, but it's also like, Spike is like one of those characters, like, he tries to be so cool, and he is so cool, but like, once you strip away, it's a very thin veneer. And once you get rid of that and actually make him confront a genuine problem, like, he's just the same as anyone else. And he ends up becoming like sort of pseudo roommates with Giles. I could watch a show just about them. The Weetabix and the blood. the tying him to the chair. I'd love some brandy. Passions is on! Oh, it's...
What I love about Spike is when, I think at this point we've seen it, is how he becomes a vampire, and they show you that William the Bloody wasn't actually a nickname from him being horrendously murderous. It's a nickname from him being bloody or full of poetry.
Yeah.
And I love that once you've seen that, I find you can see moments of that in him throughout the rest of the show. You can see the real William, that he used to be the cringy, awkward, don't really know how to deal with this person. And I love that then you start noticing that in him.
He's like the guy that in school was really awkward and nervous, and he went away to university, and then he found himself and became much more confident. Holy crap, I'm Spike! That's me! Yes!
You did it! You became the third person you wanted to become.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, a couple of years ago when I went for Halloween as John Constantine, my hair looked a bit like him. Yeah.
There you go, see?
Yes!
You did a Spike cosplay and you didn't even know it.
Yeah. And lots of other stuff going on in this thing. So, Oz and Willow sadly break up early on in the season because he did the nasty with another wolfie. And I bet he can't control his wolfness anymore, so he has to leave. And it's really, really sad. But it's okay, because we now have Tara. Tara. You don't like Tara, do you?
I don't, because she was Oz's replacement. I couldn't ever get over the Oz thing. I can't deal with her at all.
I don't even know you anymore. I don't even know.
I like her more as an adult, actually, since I've been rewatching it. But initially, I really hated her. I think possibly just because of Oz. I was just like, you're the reason that, they couldn't get back together later, which is what I wanted.
So basically, Willow and Tara start a new relationship together, and it's really sweet. And it starts in this hilarious way because Willow joins, like, a witch group thinking that they're going to do magic because she started doing magic. She used to be known as, like, the computer girl, and she sort of abandoned that for the magic stuff, which was improvement, I'll be honest. And then you find out that actually they're not really doing any magic. They just, like, pretending or like, praying to, like, Mother Gaia and stuff like that. It's just a bunch of hippies. But then it turns out Tara is also a witch, and I thought they had a really sweet relationship and a really cool thing, but also, like, Willow learning about her feelings for her and trying to deal with that. In fact, if there's one criticism, is that we never see any of Willow's family's reaction to this. I think we hear about it, but we never actually see, or Zan, we never see Xander's family either. Like, you'd think, considering their main characters, would see, like, at least one family
Yeah,
member.
I just thought that. Now you said it, I'm like, we don't ever see Xander's family, do we?
We hear a lot about Willow's family. We hear a lot
Yeah.
about Willow
And
and
we
her
see
mum.
her mum in that witch hunt episode. We don't ever
Oh,
see
do
her.
we see her? Oh, I didn't even know we
Yeah,
see
we
her.
see her
But
mum.
I couldn't
Yeah,
even remember
because
her.
she's part of the group that goes crazy thinking these kids have been killed and actually tries
Yeah.
to burn Willow at the stake herself.
Yeah, it's a interesting,
It's fun.
interesting addition to the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
But Oz does come back after going to Tibet and trying to control his werewolf side a bit more, and then he finds out that they're together, and he goes a tad apeshit and gets a bit confused, and it all comes to a head, and it turns, and of course Willow and Tara have been sort of keeping this from her friends as well, and it. There's the episode where Willow accidentally makes Giles blind, makes Buffy and Spike fall in love with each other, and that's hilarious in of itself.
I just remembered that. We're getting married.
And then she mentions offhand that Tara is her girlfriend, and Xander's like, yeah, but what about this and that? Tara's your girlfriend? And Giles from the other room says, bloody hell! It was interesting to see Willow grow and develop in the context of this relationship and learning more about Tara. And I think one of the most interesting things that happens in season 4 is the revelation of Tara's family and how they believe that actually she's part demon or something, and that she needs to come home and be under the control of a family after a certain point. And they behave in a really, really controlling and abusive way. And her sister or a cousin or something is played by Amy Adams. That was weird. And it turns out they were just making all this up. Like, the family's been making all this up just to, like, control the women in the family. And it's really, really... It's weird, but it's also, like, so great to see Tara, like, get over insecurities about her family and be truly accepted by the group. Because, like, Buffy and Xander and all of them come to her defense, except for Spike, because he doesn't care what happens.
No.
Although he does sort of save the day in the end, because he hits her on the head and he hurts his head because that means that she's human. So he sort of saves that. And I thought that was an interesting episode. In fact, there's a lot of really interesting episodes, both in terms of the initiative.
I think I've only seen 4 once. I don't really remember much of it.
It's one of those seasons where you don't... I mean, if you need to understand a couple of stuff with the characters, you need to see it. But aside from the plot, nothing much happens until, like, the very end. A couple of episodes I want to point out. First of all is Hush.
Oh, yes.
So basically, there's a criticism of Joss Whedon that he writes very good dialogue, but it's sort of like it's a fallback sort of thing. It's his only real strength, and another criticism I've heard is that you could interchange a lot of the dialogue between the characters, and they would be pretty much the same characters. So Joss heard about this, or the people at Mutant Enemy heard about this, and thought, oh, okay then, challenge accepted. And they wrote an episode with almost no dialogue. These creepy people called the Gentlemen, who are fucking creepy.
Oh god, they terrified me when I was young.
Fucking creepy. Steal everyone's voices so that they can, harvest people's organs without them screaming out loud. And most of the episode is just people wandering around, just like trying to communicate with people, despite the fact that they can't talk. And yet, despite the fact that they can't talk, so much is revealed between these characters. There's another character called Riley, who is boring as dry toast.
Yes.
I mean, I like the guy who plays him, Mark Blucas. And I thought there was a couple of interesting ideas about him, and his relationship with Buffy was kind of interesting. But he was basically like boring. He's basically boring, and basically boring and safe, although he is part of the initiative. And Buffy finds that out during Hush when she sees him in like his paramilitary gear.
What about that? It's like the last moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where they both turn to fight each other, and she's standing there with a stake like a weirdo, and he's standing there in full fucking military gear and a gun. It's like, okay,
it's
now what?
It's one of the best written episodes in television.
Yeah.
And if not forever, then certainly at that time. It was so interesting and unique, and you could these characters still act like the characters even though they can't talk.
The whiteboards.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just made me think of the presentation Giles does about like how to defeat them when like Buffy's trying to say slaying, but she hasn't got her stake with her, and she's just like,
It looks like she's wanking.
And they all look at her and she's like, no, 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 no. And like manages to get a steak out of her bag. And she's like, no, this. Oh my God. That was so dirty.
Yeah. Oh, and the gentleman where they're near the completion of the plan, they're looking around us, smiling and everything, and they're like,
Oh.
It's like one of the few sounds you hear in the show, in the episode, is just like them slightly clapping. It's so creative and it's so creepy. Another episode I want to talk about is Superstar, the one where Jonathan becomes the hero.
I don't remember that.
Really? Oh, so basically Jonathan makes like a wish or gets like a curse put him or something, wherein he is like everything that happens in Buffy like revolves around him. They even changed the intro to include more Jonathan. And he's the coolest guy on the planet. Everyone's in love with him. Buffy becomes like a secondary player to him. Anytime anyone comes for help, it's to him. And it turns out it's because of this whole curse thing. And I just thought it was really interesting. It's like to give like this standalone episode to this fairly minor character that we've seen in the last 3 seasons. But it's also done in a way like almost like a self-insert fan fiction.
Yeah.
The idea of I'm sure from time to time we've all imagined ourselves in our favorite television shows. But this is what it would be like if it was done, but also if it was done really wrong. And as much as it is cool to see Jonathan like this, it is wrong. It's not meant to be like that. And he does learn that. And so is everyone else. I thought it was a really cool, interesting idea. But the big bad of this season, we've sort of left him out because he's a bit of a weird one, is Adam. A combination
comes out of nowhere.
He comes out of nowhere. He's built by the Initiative and like this Professor Initiative runner person. I can't remember her name. And he's like part human, part demon flesh, part cybernetics. And he's like this big Frankenstein monstrous thing. And he's kind of interesting. And he's got a couple of neat lines. And Spike's talking with him like, do you even listen to music and stuff? And he's like, yes, I like Helter Skelter. You would. It's stuff like that. And yeah, he's an interesting idea for a villain, but he just can't compare to the Mayor, Spike and Drusilla, and the Master. He just can't compare. And it's a shame. It's really the only, not negative of season 4, but certainly the weakest element of it.
Yeah. I can honestly say, like I said, I've only watched the season once, and I've only watched that episode once because I think his biggest weakness was there was no build up to him. And that's always one of the biggest strengths to Buffy's big bads, is that they build you up to really be like, oh shit, this person's a problem, like, and to really want them to be defeated. And you know, you've got all this stuff coming together, whereas with Adam it's like we're kind of aware of the Initiative and they're there and their presence is felt in a lot of the episodes, but I don't really feel like they're felt as like a threat throughout the episode. And then suddenly we've got this dude, and now he's a problem.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
And they all come together at like the hands and the heart and the mind or whatever it is, and they get rid of them. And then we get a first hint of something interesting, which will play out for the rest of the show, the first Slayer, and everything that happened with her. And we'll get more onto that later. Is there anything else about season 4 you want to talk about?
Just one thing about that Hush episode that's gold that I just remembered is at this point I think Spike's staying with Xander.
Oh,
and
yes!
he's like tied to that chair and he's doing his sign language thing of Xander getting up and being like, oh, I have no voice, in silence, and then just looking at Spike really like pointing at him and being like, you did this, and Spike just sticks his fingers up and is like, whatever. He's so unbothered by it all.
You reminded me of something now. This is also the season where Xander and Anya, the Vengeance Demon, former Vengeance Demon I should say, get together. And yeah, they had a date. They went to like prom in season 3, but this is where they officially get together because in that episode, Xander thinks that Spike has killed Anya, and then he attacks him. But Anya's like, no, I'm okay. It's like, oh, thank you, and they kiss, and Spike just sort of rolls his eyes like, oh god, I'm just here, aren't I? And it's one of those relationships, even though it would end horribly. It was an interesting one. It was an interesting one because Anya is dealing with being human, but she's got this sort of demon quality about her. She doesn't quite get empathy and stuff like that, and she really likes money and doesn't understand why mentioning how much she likes money and material possessions and sex and stuff like that is weird. It's like she's seeing Xander like do like construction work. It's just like, oh, I really like that. I'm imagining having sex with him. Oh, I just like this other thing. I'm imagining having sex with him again. Imaginary Xander is quite the machine. And it's such
I love how awkward she is.
That's
She's
the
like
thing,
petrified
she's
of
not
fat rabbits.
awkward though. For other people it's awkward, but she is just being natural and normal and just telling people what she's thinking. And it's a really unique and interesting idea. Just for being this weird, raw honesty. And it made it really stand out. Emma Caulfield did such a great job, and they just complimented each other in that way. It comes to a head later on. Season 5 opens up in the best way possible. Buffy versus Dracula.
Oh, yes, this is that episode. Yes. That was
I'm
amazing.
sorry, I thought you knew. I am Dracula. Get out!
It's gold. I love it. I'm so glad they did do that. It was a good little idea to have in there.
Yeah, and they explain all his extra powers. It turns out it's like Gypsy Romania magic and stuff like that. And it's a cool, nice little soft intro for season 5, as well as, a hint of some problems between Buffy and Riley. And of course, it's the episode wherein we meet Dawn.
The whole Dawn thing was played really well.
I knew! Yeah, go on.
But it was an issue because we were watching it by disc at this point. So, bear in mind, this was the day you couldn't get shit on the internet or Sky or anything like that. Sky was around, you couldn't get box sets. So we were watching it by disc. The confusion this caused me and my mum, this episode where she comes home and Dawn's just there. Literally, the episode ended and we looked at each other and we're like, have we missed a season?
For the uninitiated, for someone who's watching it after the fact, like after the first airing, it would be very confusing. And I was pretty confused, but then I just watched the next episode. And...
Yeah, we did. But we had to look in the disc tray and everything. We're like, is there a mention of like us having missed something? Did we put the wrong disc in? Like, hang on a minute. We had to sit and have the conversation. We're like, I haven't forgotten, have I? But there's a sister, and then we're like, okay, let's just try the next one.
See, I thought you were going to be like, oh, I didn't like Dawn, because a lot of people really didn't like Dawn. She's an annoying kid character. I mixed feelings, I guess, but I sort of liked her. She was kind of interesting dynamic for Buffy, because now she's got this kid sister who's turns out is super important, especially to this like god person Glory. Now, as boring as Adam was, Glory is the exact opposite. She is temperamental. She is lightheaded and airy, but she's also like fucking powerful. Like her bare foot can crack the floor. But also she's got like this Jekyll and Hyde thing going on with this guy. I can't remember his name, but it opened up so... It was such an interesting idea and opened up so many avenues. It was a real marked improvement. In fact, this whole season 5, even though season 4, you'd think that would be the season where the show grows up, for want of a better word, but it really was season 5. Season 5 got fucking dark.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And I think we really understood that. In fact, no, I think season 5 was when Tara's whole family thing happened. I think that was possibly...
I don't know. I don't remember Tara's family thing at all. I don't know why. I've got a complete black hole in my memory of that.
I mean, it's not the most important thing in the world, and once they're gone, it never gets remembered again. But although we do see Tara and Willow's relationship bloom and blossom, and they become awesome and sort of like really close with Dawn, and they start wearing like these like floral witch dresses, like the sort of thing you might see like a Ren Fair or something, and it's really sweet, and they just come really sweet. But also there's tragedy because this is when Joyce dies.
Oh, that episode.
I mean, she dies because of like a brain tumor. It's such a human, naturalistic, but also emotionally crippling episode for everyone. For everyone. Because, I mean, it was a cliffhanger. Like the episode before, Buffy comes home. She sees like her mum on the floor. She's like, Mum? Mummy? And then the episode ends. It's like, What? No, she can't be dead. She can't be dead. She can't be dead. It's like if Willow died, we'd be sad, but it'd be understandable. If Xander died, if Anya died, if any of these characters, we would expect it. No one expected Joyce to die. Not Joyce. Not Buffy's mum. And we'd seen her at her strictest, we'd seen her at her funniest, we'd seen her at her like loosest in band candy, and then she dies, and everyone is heartbroken. In fact, when they were doing I think there were those interviews and stuff, I think she was talking about how she and another actor and Armin Shimmerman who played Snyder were all getting back for something this sort of mini reunion thing, in a magazine or something, or at Mutant Enemy, and she was looking around wondering why are there so few people here, why not so many people coming back, and someone said to her, well, because you're one of the few ones that everyone likes, and everyone liked the actor that played her. I can't remember her name, and everyone just liked the character, and everyone, even Anya, who's one of the most self-involved characters, breaks down because she keeps on asking these really inappropriate questions is Joyce going to get an autopsy? When are they going to bury her? Stuff like that. And it was just stop talking about that. But she says she's asking this. She doesn't understand. She doesn't get this whole mortality thing. She's asking these questions and she's so sad. And I just saw this box of juice the other day, and then I realized Joyce will never have juice again, and that made me sad, and I don't know why. And the scene where Buffy goes to Dawn's school. I mean, we could talk all day about it because it's such a good episode.
It's brilliant. It's so well written. It's one of the prime examples I talk about when I just say the writing of Buffy is just incredible. And just in general, what I love about Buffy is the fact that it's a supernatural thing and all this crazy stuff happens, but they're so good at presenting real life issues in a way that's believable and to characters that you understand, and showing with their range of characters every way that somebody can react to these real life situations. And I think The Body was the perfect example of that. I loved that it was a silent episode. It had no music throughout the whole thing to make you uncomfortable. I thought that was amazing. And
so many shows use musical stings to make you feel sad. This is the sad moment now. This is the happy moment now. It was all on the performance. It's all on the writing.
And it was amazing. And they showed you just so much by Joyce dying in that way. It was real. It was showing you that, she didn't die of anything supernatural. It can come out of the blue. So they were showing you that. They were showing you Buffy having to be a real adult in every possible way of, my mum is gone and everything is on me now, including my kid sister, who is not even that much younger than me. Everything
and
is on her. And
it's turned out is the key for the apocalypse, happily.
Yeah.
And that all comes to a head. So
Anya, like you said, having the completely unique reaction, and then Willow and Xander having that first experience of
Giles, because he had a. Let me put it this way: when they were off on the band candy thing, he and Joyce may have gotten a little bit freaky.
So they showed it just from every possible way, Willow and Xander dealing with the death of someone who wasn't their family and wasn't their mum,
even Spike.
Yeah, he'd met her.
He met her, and he's a soulless vampire, but he managed to express some degree of sympathy. He said she was a good lady.
Yeah. I just thought it was beautiful the way they showed that effect in so many ways, and it was so real, and the emotion, and it was so raw. It's just amazing. It's such a good episode to talk about.
Yeah. And season 5, we're going to go through these a bit quicker now. Season 5 comes to a head when Buffy sacrifices herself for Dawn, and she dies. And the episode again, but for reals this time, she gets fully buried and everything. And so is there even going to be season 6? Could there be a season 6? How could they possibly do this? Willow does a bad. Season 6, Buffy comes back from the dead because Willow resurrects her. And she thinks this is a good thing. Buffy is back from the dead. This is good. And Giles is like, you fucking moron.
What have you done?
And Buffy come back a little bit wrong. She feels a bit out of place. It's weird. And we don't really get a proper explanation for that until, once more with feeling, whatever possessed them to make a musical episode, I will never know. But thank goodness they did it.
It's initially something I really didn't think would work, actually. Obviously, we watched Buffy quite a while after it aired, so no, not as long as now, obviously. But coming up to it, I think we did hear a few things that there was going to be a musical episode. And initially, my mum and I were kind of, okay, this could go either way. And it was before shows were like commonly doing this.
I think like Glee and
Grey's
Smash.
Anatomy had one. Like
Grey's Anatomy,
everything has had a musical episode. But like back
The
when
Flash had a musical episode. What the fuck?
back when we were watching it, it wasn't like the commonly done thing. So we were really up and down. It's not something you'd expect to work within Buffy. Said the music's amazing. It's so good. Yeah. It's enjoyable to listen to outside of the episode.
Wish I could say the right words to lead you through his land. Oh my God. Who knew Andy Stewart Head could sing?
I love his style as well. Just his voice is really enjoyable. It's really cool. Oh, I love it. I was so pleased with the episode.
Yeah. Everyone gets a moment. Everyone gets a even bunch of demons get a little song like she does really well with feeds from hell, but lately we can tell that she's just going through the motions, faking it somehow.
Oh, so good.
She's not even half the girl she. Ow.
I was listening to the soundtrack yesterday, and it's just like, it never gets old. It's still so enjoyable. Spike's little song, I mean...
That's probably the weakest one for me, actually.
It's not the best song, but I really enjoy listening to it. I don't know, I just like his voice.
It's just because this is at the point. Basically, in the lead up to this episode, Xander and Anya have been having a few relationship issues. Dawn has been a bit of a kleptomaniac recently. Willow has been abusing her magical powers and messing with Tara's mind to make her forget arguments that they've had. And Buffy is hiding something about what happened to her while she died. And also, Spike has a little crushy-wushy on her.
So good.
It's so cute. The fact that there's
evil
vampire, like with Angel, they were both into each other, but it was very much an equally sided thing. She was into him, he was into her. Boom. Here, it's very one-sided. It's just Spike just crushing hard on Buffy, and wouldn't you know it, maybe she feels something. Maybe not the same way as he does, but something back. But there's all these other things coming together. And it all comes to a head in Once More Feeling. There's a demon who makes people sing uncontrollably about anything. He got the mustard out. It's such a brilliant plot device because it means people just blurt out their secrets.
It's great. It's I understood it as like pretty much any like big feelings that you're having just come out. Yeah. And I love that. I think that was a really good way to, like you said, bring all the things that are happening out, and it feels very natural. It doesn't feel forced, like, okay, we've talked about this for enough time, now let's make it happen. It's just everything is kind of exploding out of everyone, and it's...
Because in a musical, people sing about their feelings. That's how they communicate those ideas. So it's one... I mean, they could have done like a curse where they just blurt out secrets, but that would get old pretty quickly. Yeah. And so this way, it's... And it's also because they're telling us these things to each other, but they're doing it while they're singing. And it's only when the song ends that they realise, oh, shit.
I've said this. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes things really uncomfortable. Especially when Buffy... All these things come out, except for, Spike having a crush on Buffy. That remains a bit of a secret. But Buffy reveals that, well, she was dead. She wasn't just dead. She was in heaven. Or at least the closest equivalent of heaven. And once you put someone in heaven, it's really not a good idea to take them out. Because even if something is slightly less good as heaven, it's gonna be pretty much like hell.
Yeah.
And the full impact of this comes crashing down on the gang, especially Willow, when she realizes what she did. And it takes Spike, actually, to make her feel better. It's so cool.
It's a really interesting dynamic to see that change with Spike and Buffy, especially in this season, that like she starts confiding in him, and it's really interesting seeing how they've grown and how their relationships changed.
But it's also not no, it's not the best relationship, because
No.
to a certain extent Spike has put her on a pedestal and stuff like that, and he doesn't really know what he does feel. And Buffy, meanwhile, to a certain extent, is using Spike to make herself feel better. It's not like with Angel, where it was briefly at least, it was a loving relationship. In this, he is just her fuck toy, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, not that he hasn't done similar stuff with the robot Buffy. Let's be honest.
Oh, Robot Buffy was an amazing episode. I loved that. So cringy, but so good.
Hi, Anya. How's your money? Fine, thank you.
Anya loves her. It's great. It's like that's the best friend Anya could ever have.
Yeah, and it's the best friends Spike could ever have as well. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh,
It made me really like the idea of Buffy and Spike together, though. That was the sad part of that episode. I was like, oh, I kind of enjoy them now.
It's a classic tragic romance. It's never gonna work, but it just. Oh god, they could never have done this straight away. If they had done this in season 2 or even season 3, it would never have worked. It took this long to build up both these characters and get them to this point. And that's the thing. With Mutant Enemy and Joss Whedon and everything, they never jumped the gun. They always made sure that when they did something, they did it at the exact right time.
Definitely.
And the fallout from this was immense. Tara and Willow, they're on the split seas. Giles is like, okay, you know what? I'm a crutch for you, Buffy. I've got to back away now. But then after this, Anti Stewhead still became a semi-regular character. Sometimes he was there, sometimes he wasn't, which is a shame. But it made sense for his character, for Buffy's character, and Buffy is in a sort of weird relationship with Spike. And it's not like she hasn't got other stuff to deal with, though the other thing she's got to deal with is the trio.
Oh god, yeah.
Fuck the trio. They are undoubtedly the worst big bads of any season of Buffy ever. They are a one-off villain. If they were there for an episode or 2 episodes or 3 episodes even, that would be entertaining. Oh, look, 3 nerdy guys from their past. Some of them have done sort of bad things, others of whom haven't really. And just decide to, hey, literally, they do it like that, like say, hey, do you guys want to take over Sunnydale? Okay. That's it. Really? That's it? That's it? And it only made sense in the context of Warren. And turning Warren into actually a despicable bad guy and showing that actually he is a monster, but in a very human way. Like how it takes.
Yeah, how do you deal with this in the context of Buffy, because it's a human villain.
Yeah, because he mind controls his girlfriend into basically his submissive sex slave. She snaps out of it and says, "What are you doing to me?" I was going to have sex with you while you're under my mind control. She's like, "Dude, that's rape." No, it's not. Yes, it is! And that was the only good aspect, I think, of it, because we're learning more and more nowadays that so many people don't quite understand what that is, just due to culture and society and not being fucking taught that. And, of course, that doesn't excuse what Warren was doing, and definitely doesn't excuse him snapping his girlfriend's neck, or whatever he did. And what he did later, and we'll get to what he did later. But I want to talk about, there's another guy, Andrew, who I never cared for. I didn't really particularly dislike, didn't particularly like either. I won't really waste my time talking about him, to be honest. But then there's Jonathan. Jonathan would never, ever, ever say, hey, let's take over Sunnydale, let's be evil, let's try and kill the Slayer. He would never do. It was such. He would make mistakes, maybe fall in with a bad crowd. If it was like, hey, let's take over Sunnydale to try and make it a bit better. Maybe we can do better than the Slayer did. That's the sort of mindset he might have. And then later on he would realize, oh, wait, actually, that was a stupid idea. I'm sorry. And instead he's like, now he's supposed to be evil. Now he's supposed to be evil. Except that they're more like a hindrance. They're an annoyance.
Yeah.
To, it's It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Andrew's stupid, Jonathan's stupid, Warren starts off stupid and ends up fairly intriguing. But here's the thing. The only reason they were there is to lead up to the actual big bad.
Yep.
Dark Willow. Oh, it's oh god, Dark Willow. So Warren, after Buffy has finally defeated them, in a rage, comes to Buffy's house and shoots her. The bullet ricochets.
Just shoot her. Which at this point, like, you only realise this far in the season, why has no one tried to shoot the Slayer at this point? Like, if that works, why are they all trying to defeat her in any other kind of way? Just come to her house in the night and shoot her.
If I were a vampire, I would just, like, knock on her door, she open the door, hello, bang.
Done. No Slayer.
I don't even have to go inside the house.
Yeah, you can do it from outside, like Warren did.
Yeah, blow up her house. Everyone knows where she lives. Jeez, it's not difficult, guys. It's really not. Why do vampires even choose to live in Sunnydale? The moment they realise, oh shit, there's a Slayer, it's like, well, I'm out of here. I'm going. There's only one Slayer in all the world. You happen to live in the one town where she lives that she never leaves. Like, I would just bug her off, go halfway around the world. It's it's not tricky, guys. But anyway,
and I think it was a bad decision for them to almost point that out, like, because you never thought about it until that point, and then this stuff all happens, and you're like, wait a minute, this is a really dumb concept. They've made her really strong, and all of this, and all the vampires just for some reason, like, out of pride, want to beat her. I get that. Okay, that makes sense. But as soon as they point out you can kill Buffy really easily, it's just like, oh.
Spike would have been smart enough to do that, jeez. But it leads to the death of Tara. Yeah. The bullet ricochets, hits Tara, and Willow has just gone back together. They've just managed to mend the relationship after the whole season. She's finally she's gotten control over her magical powers. She's stopped abusing them, because here's the thing. Amy, after once or twice almost not being around anymore, becomes like human again, and initially seems like, oh yay, Amy's back, we liked Amy. Then the bit of a magical abuse. It's basically one big metaphor for drug abuse, and it works very well in that regard. But Willow is finally on the straight and narrow. She's back with Tara. Whoops, Tara's dead. She goes apeshit.
Yeah,
and she kills Warren by flaying him alive with magic, and she does it after saying something that her vampire doppelganger used to say, bored now.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Willow's a bad guy! Holy shit, and she's unstoppable!
She's like lost her complete mind. It's amazing.
The hair goes black, she goes veiny.
Her saving Buffy and like seeming like she really isn't much fussed about doing it either. It's just the moment that I first realised, I was like, Willow is gone.
Yeah, but not entirely, because it takes Xander, of all people, to bring her back. And he doesn't fight her, he doesn't use magic against her, he just tells her that he loves her. Oh god, this is such Care Bears shit, and yet I love it!
But that works with Willow. That's the thing. It's kind of stupid in the context of all the other big bads. We stopped her by loving her. Like, yeah, okay, that's a bit stupid from that angle. But when you look at like who the big bad actually is, it's Willow. It's still underneath all of that. It's Willow, and all she is ever gonna need is to know that it's gonna be okay. You couldn't have done it any other way.
Yeah, no, you couldn't. Because for a long time, she was the emotional core of the Scooby Gang. And supplemented that with Tara. Once you take Tara away from her, I mean, geez, let me put it this way. She didn't go evil after Oz split up with her.
But Oz left her. He didn't die in her arms.
Yeah.
Like, the level of trauma of Tara's death is
and she banishes like gods. She like tells these bunch of like ancient eldritch gods like, bring her back. She can't. She died a mortal way. It's not gonna happen. Oh well, fuck you then.
Yeah, I know. In that moment, she's such a badass that this major powerful spirit is like, I can't do that, and she's like, fine, I'll just kill you and sort it out myself. And you're like, whoa, what?
And you really get a sense of her power as well. That's how. I mean, jeez.
The absorbing of the books, Jesus, that was like, for its day with the special effects and everything, was immense.
Maybe that's why they did the trio, just because that was a way of saving effects on like a big demon or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Although we get more demons as the series went on, it was less vampires and more demons. Although they would make a return big time in season 7. So also the other thing that we have to talk about is Xander and Anya finally break up. They're about to get married, and that was tough.
I personally hate that episode.
Yeah,
I really hate it. This was what we were talking about earlier with the Cordy thing. It just always felt like a bit of a kick in the teeth for all the other characters growing, and then Xander is still doing the same dumb shit he's been doing since the beginning, and it's like a bad thing and a good thing. It's great writing to show they're real people, and sometimes they don't learn, and sometimes they make the wrong decisions, but it was just so frustrating to watch.
Why can't you two get it together?
Well, just sort your shit out. Jesus, it's not that hard. With all the shit going on in your life, marriage should not be that scary.
It doesn't help when fake future prophecies show that you're going to have a horrible relationship, but it's it's annoying. But the big culmination, actually, I think was the last thing we see this series, is Spike has finally been for once and for all rejected by Buffy. He's like, "Oh yes, Slayer, I'm gonna show you," and he goes to like this demon thing who shows him like these bunch of obstacles, and he's got flame fists and stuff, and it's awesome. And it's like, well, what's he doing that for? What ultimate power is he going to get? What weapon will he use against Buffy? And then the demon's like, I will give you what you want, William the Bloody. Your soul. What? What?
Oh, it's amazing. It's just like the whole lead up to that is something I really want to talk about in season 6, is the episode with Spike. It is Seeing Red, I believe. I can't remember. It might be 19. I looked it up last night and it's gone, episode 19. Where Spike, like, borderline almost rapes Buffy, and it's horrendous.
Yeah.
But the thing I really want to talk about with that is that for its time, that was incredibly risky and brave for them to put that in, because they really ran the risk of, like, destroying one of their most popular characters. But at the same time, it almost made him, because it showed just how truly flawed a character he is, and how flawed their relationship, if you can even call it that, is, how unhealthy it is. It kind of talked about consent in a way, and it talked about the fact that where their relationship is up and down, and they never really talk it through, and it's just, we'll have sex now and then it's don't touch me. It does create that kind of grey area of, is that what we have now? We're just throw ourselves at each other whenever we want, and then it's not talked about. But it also, I think it finally stressed the importance of a soul as well. The whole thing with Angel in season 1 and 2, when he first came in, they made a huge deal out of him being a vampire with a soul, and it's so unusual, and how amazing it was. And then it was just never talked about again. And to see that comparison between Spike has a control chip and now wants to be better and is trying to make better choices.
Because Angel didn't want to be better. He got cursed.
No, he just was given it, but it was never talked about. They showed you that actually there's a big difference between Spike having a control chip and not being able to attack people, so trying to live a better life, and having a soul. It does not... You're still a demon, and you still can't fully make good choices. You are a demon. You're just restricted.
Yeah, you're a demon with a leash.
And I really liked that they proved that. He nearly did something really horrific, because he's still evil.
It's almost like the show tricked us into thinking he was a good guy. But and as you say, it's a big reminder, a big slap in the face. And then to end the season on that, now he has a soul.
Now he actually wants to be good.
But then again, having a soul does not make you good. Warren had a soul. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, true. But it's a choice that Spike makes. So that is, again, it's like you said, they flip it on their head and remind you actually he's not a good guy. And then they go, but he wants to be. He wants to take this step towards it. And you're like, wait, what? He did this in 3 episodes. Actually, he's bad, but he does want to be good. It's crazy writing. I love
it turns him crazy.
Yeah.
It's season 7. This season 7, I think, was probably the weakest of all the seasons. As much as season 6 had a very bad big bad, what was happening with the main characters was actually really good. Season 7, I think it's the weakest, which is not to say that it's bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's good because it's Buffy and it's all good. This is just the one that's the least great, which is fine. Which is not to say there aren't some great standout bits, some great new characters, some great returning characters. And so it starts off, Spike is basically insane. So we're tortured by the fact that he's got a soul now. And he's, again, it's movie crazy. Not actually crazy, although it's kind of interesting. But eventually got kind of boring and they just sort of left it and he's back to normal now. And
there wasn't enough importance on that turning around, I don't think.
No big competition in him and Buffy. It was just, he's back now. But so what's the big bad of this season? The first evil that we've seen a couple of times before. It starts haunting Buffy and he's got big plans and stuff like that. It's all coming to a head, and as its minion, it's got Nathan Fillion as Caleb, who's scary.
Oh, I hate him so much. I can't watch him. He really, out of all the Buffy villains, he really creeps me out because he's more like real psychopaths. You know, not demon monster. All of this guy is just fucking mental and will hurt you in every way possible and not give a shit. And
he's just the only thing that's special about him is that he's really, really strong.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a terrifying concept.
Yeah.
And we also get Robin Wood, so the new principal, and he's a pretty interesting character. Only in terms of his backstory, though. See, it turns out his mum used to be a Slayer that Spike killed.
I don't remember that. See, this is what I mean. Season 7's a bit of a black hole because I was kind of bored with it. I wanted to get through it, but I don't think I absorbed all of the things that happened.
They do throw a lot of disparate elements at you. There's Robin, who's as I say, his mum's a Slayer, and there's things of Spike. Spike's insane, but then he's not, and the first evil that we've seen before, and this Caleb thing. But in addition to that, it turns out there's a load of potential Slayers that are being killed off. And so now the Summers home is becoming like a sorority house, for want of a better phrase.
A potential haven.
A potential haven full of potentials from all around the world, including Felicia Day.
Yes. That's the only good part of it.
And if I would pick anyone to be a Slayer, I'd pick Felicia Day, let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And also this other girl called Kennedy, who Willow gets together with.
Yeah. I don't know. The potentials were very up and down with me.
Yeah.
They could have done so much more with them. They were just there.
They were there for Buffy to take charge of. Yeah. Because throughout the season, she's not directing them very well. And then Faith comes back. Faith, who is no longer evil, struggling a bit, but no longer evil. And she takes charge. And it's all about Buffy proving herself. And, here endeth the lesson sort of thing. And that's basically what the show is about. Buffy finally taking control of all these people and leading this big assault against the Hellmouth and the school. And all these big, proto-vampires that were under... Again, it's... For me, season 7 isn't a blank. It's murky. It's murky because there's so many different things, and you just sort of... I wasn't, sleepwalking through it, but I wasn't entirely conscious at the same time. No. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, also, that's how I felt.
Oh, the worst fucking thing, though. Andrew comes back after going to Mexico and under the influence of the first evil, having killed Jonathan...
Yeah.
In my mind, he stole Jonathan's character arc. If they had switched that, if Jonathan had killed Andrew, that would have worked much better. Allowed him to confront more about himself. I don't give a fuck about Andrew. I care about Jonathan.
Nobody did. He was a really strange choice out of the two to bring back. We had a lot more attachment with Jonathan. We had a background with Jonathan. Andrew was just this random kid that appeared for part of the trio and then became irrelevant for a while, and now he's back. Well, nobody cares. And you didn't have much sympathy for him because of that. I feel like like you said, if Jonathan had his story arc, we would have felt a lot more sympathetic to his cause. We've seen him across many seasons. We've seen him feel invisible and go through all these things. To have him now coming forward with this whole situation.
There was an episode in I think it was the one where Buffy gets some mind control things, mind-reading abilities in season 3, where she finds that Jonathan is going to commit suicide.
Yeah.
Like, fucking hell, this is... He's not the most important character, but he was a mainstay for years and years and years. And he deserved more. You could argue that they killed him because it would have more of an emotional reaction because we wouldn't care so much if Andrew get killed. But then again, there's this big confrontation between Buffy and Andrew about how actually he did kill Jonathan, and he's making stuff up in his mind to make himself imagining himself as a much better light. He's got you got to wake up and face reality, and that would have been so much better with Jonathan.
Yep.
So I'm not going to talk about Andrew anymore. I don't care about Andrew. What I am going to talk about is Xander going on Nick Fury.
Oh, I know, it's so horrible.
Because that's the thing, we've had characters die before. We've never had a character really mutilated before, not in a physical sense. And that's the one thing I do kind of like about this season is there are consequences. Not always, but there are, for the most of the fact, consequences. And Xander now doesn't have an eye. They can't bring it back. They can't magic him back an eye. They even have a conversation with later on in the season after he lost his eye, where he says like he has to like have extra driving tests or something because of his decreased depth perception. And this is something he's going to have to live with for the rest of his life. Xander, the sort of unaffable, wisecracking jester of the group, has been brutally mutilated. And by fucking Caleb. And that's when you know that he's a force to be reckoned with. He just like pokes it out with his thumb. Ugh! It's...
Yeah, I can't watch it.
it's intense. It's intense. And it all comes to a head. A bunch of characters come back. Giles returns to lead the assault on the school with the... Yay! He's back. And they have a lovely callback to the first episode where they're talking about stuff and just like, the Earth is definitely doomed. Callback. And
Giles becomes like almost a foster dad to all these Slayers again. It's like the beginning again where he first like took Buffy under his wing and started to feel for them, except on a much larger scale. He comes in and it's like, oh hello head watcher, here's all these Slayers for you. Like, it's a little bit intense. His family grows quite quickly.
And Willow is back to fighting strength. She spent the beginning of the season in England with Giles, actually, getting back into control. And that's another thing I like, talking about consequences again. They could have just had I'm back to normal now, it's fine, maybe I use magic, maybe I don't, but whatever. Here, it's not over for her. She's still got to learn to deal with the grief of losing Tara. She's still got to deal with her addiction to magic and manage that. Which all comes ahead in the final episode where she taps into like good Willow and becomes like all glowy and white and stuff, and it's like
cool, like Gandalf Willow.
Willow the White.
It's great. I love it. It's I don't know. This season, as much as it wasn't my favorite, I feel like this was the season where everybody really grew up. Like suddenly there were, like you said, all these extra consequences. Xander has to stop being that wisecracking guy and actually start being, well, do you know what? I'm a normal human, and I've chosen to be alongside the Slayer forever and fight all this extra stuff. And it feels for me with him like he finally starts to realize, okay, I probably need to take this a little bit more seriously. There's a lot of risk. And same with Willow. With her whole magic thing, it feels like she grows up a lot in a season and starts to realize she can't just mess with anything because she feels like it. Buffy owns the house and is looking after her little sister and suddenly has like a million more little sisters to take care of. It's like everybody, you really start to feel how much older they are.
Yeah, they've been growing up slowly over the course of the seasons, and it comes to a climax. And that's what season 7 is. It's the final run-up to the final climax. And oh god, Anya Anya dies. It's so quick.
Sucks.
It's oh god, I still can't, because I mean she's always been the one that's been least reluctant to leap into action, wants to stay out of the fighting, and this one she finally steps up, and it's too late when she dies.
And I always felt like she deserved more.
She just, well, I don't know. I mean, I think the point of this is that, at least in this final bit, none of them deserved anything. It's just about them trying to save the day for the last fucking time. And she's not the only one to sacrifice themselves. Spike makes the ultimate sacrifice, chooses to kill himself and kill all the vampire things with him. He dies laughing, and
It's awful.
It's absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful.
It's heartbreaking. All these years later, I watch it and I'm just like, no, sat there sobbing. My partner's watching me going, you know this is coming every time. And I'm like, it doesn't make it not suck. I hate it.
Yeah. It's raw every time, damn it.
Yeah, it is.
And then the Hellmouth and the whole of Sunnydale finally collapses in on itself. It's now a crater. We see the Sunnydale sign tip over slightly, and
it's gone.
And then what's the result of all this? Turns out every potential Slayer is now a Slayer.
That was cool. I did like that.
And it's like, hey Buffy, you're not the only Slayer anymore. What do you think of that? And she just smiles because now the pressure of being a Slayer is now at least partially off her shoulders, which is what she's always wanted. From season 1, she wanted a normal life with normal friends, a normal school, and not have to chase after vampires. And eventually she did accept that, but there's always part of her that wanted it not to all be on her. She didn't want to be the leader, and now it's a bit off her. In the comics, she still has a lot of that responsibility. She's sort of like the head Slayer, for want of a better phrase, but it's a more. It just opens up a whole world of possibilities, and it was a perfect way to end the show.
I think that's what everybody wanted to see. I liked that they did that in a way that none of us would have thought of or expected to happen. I can obviously only speak for myself, but the whole time I watched it, you just wanted there to be a way for her to have some sort of life that wasn't slaying. Yeah. You wanted her to be able to do it and not every time some big bad comes up, it's the end of the world, go into it thinking, I'm probably going to die.
Yeah.
And it was...
Because that takes a toll really on someone.
Yeah. And it was so nice to see that happen. It was great to see all the potentials activated that were with her. That was cool.
Faith's back to being good.
Yes, but I was about to say that Faith in with all the Slayers and looking like she'd finally found her place. So I feel like they wrapped it up really well for both of our Slayers. Buffy can now have a life. Faith can have a place within all these new Slayers and almost take on the role Buffy's always had of looking after Dawn. She can look after other Slayers. She can be part of a community and a lifestyle. And I just really liked to see those two finally have a new start and something that works for them both. I never expected that to happen. I honestly just expected if Buffy ever ended, it would be everybody dies and misery and awfulness.
Or so worse, like a really saccharine, overly happy ending where like Buffy isn't a Slayer anymore and there's no more vampires and everyone dances through a lollipop field of rainbows. Angel magically becomes human and they get married. Like you're really expecting that. Like... There's a fanfic out there of that. But yeah. So let's talk about post-Buffy. We talked a bit about season 8 and the comics and stuff like that, but there's a couple of other things I want to talk about. We won't talk about Angel, obviously, because that continued for a season after the end of Buffy. I want to talk about just 3 things. First of all, Buffy... 2 things, actually. First of all, Buffy spin-offs. There was going to be... There were ideas. Ideas of a Giles spin-off called Ripper. Yeah. And a Faith spin-off called Faith. And Ripper fell through. I think it was an idea, early talk, but it fell through. I think Auntie Stuart Head liked the idea, but it just wasn't going to happen. And also, I think it probably makes sense. It would be nice to see more about him and more focus on him, but at the same time, like, I think at this point with all the Slayers, the potential Slayers, it's better that he sticks with the group and everything. And then you see that in the comics. Faith, I think, got a bit further from what I've heard. It seems like a lot of people were really interested in it, and I thought that would have been an excellent idea because she's sort of been redeemed now, but she's still got her own demons, and it would have been nice to see her go out on her own, separate from everyone else, and still try and find herself properly this time.
Yeah, I would have liked that.
But apparently, Eliza Dushku passed on it because there was this other show that she wanted to do which only lasted like 2 seasons, and so it was never going to happen. But they did get a Faith comic, I think. Okay. Probably. She's featured in comics. I've read comics with her in it as the main character, so she's out there. The other thing I want to talk about is a Buffy ripoff, Charmed.
We don't like Charmed in this house.
We don't like Charmed in this house either.
We bought it when we first finished Buffy and we needed something else to watch. We bought season 1 and it sat on my shelf for about 10 years. And they gave it to my friends last Christmas. I was like, there you go, you like Charmed, have season 1. I got disc 1 done and was like, this is like Buffy, but crap.
Yeah, because people underestimate, I think, the impact Buffy had when it first started. We're looking at it now post-Buffy and we're looking at it in hindsight, but when Buffy first started, I mean, people had tried to make like fantasy, vampire, dark sort of stuff like that in the early 90s, mid-90s for quite a while. And it never really taken off. Buffy made it take off. So suddenly, people wanted to do even more of this sort of stuff. And Charmed really came out of that. And, oh, it's not vampires, now it's witches. And I've always maintained the philosophy that I don't like it when people rip things off. But if you're going to rip something off, be good.
Yeah.
And for the first 3 seasons, hit and miss a bit, Charmed was okay. It was decent. It was fairly good because it focused on something that Buffy didn't until much later. The idea of sisterhood and, you know, women together and all that sort of stuff. And then that made it sort of unique and sort of interesting. Then behind the scenes stuff happened. Castmates got into squabbles and the show sort of devolved into what sexy outfit can we put Alyssa Milano in now? The egos bled through. You should hear some of the stuff that goes on and you should see the later seasons because, my God, it gets so stupid to the point where it's actually infuriating. These, like Buffy, I always compare it to Buffy because that's what it's ripping off. But Buffy,
that's the marker.
Buffy never wanted to be a slayer. Buffy never wanted to go out and hunt vampires. She never once said, I'm not going to do it. She said, I don't want to do it, but I will do it. These women in Charmed, constantly, every time evil looms over them, they say, no, I don't want to do it, so I'm not going to. And then by the end of the episode, they're like, okay, I guess I'll get rid of it then. And it's just like, you have magical powers. Great power, great responsibility. You heard that phrase before? You stupid witch. It's...
You like want to reach into the show and give them a copy of a Buffy DVD and be like, learn some things.
This is how you do it! Smack, 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 smack. I don't want to go into it too much because honestly, we could go into a whole other episode talking about how much I hate Charmed and how much it sucks. But we talked about this stuff for long enough. So, final thoughts on Buffy. 20 years later, I mean, we said at the beginning of this episode it's kind of dated, but I think whilst aspects of it are dated, the truth is it is way more timeless than dated. I think this is a show that people will go back and watch for years to come.
I hope so.
Because of its impact on television, because of its impact on the idea of fantasy and horror and vampires. And it's so annoying because I like vampires. I like the vampire genre. That's always been very interesting to me. And yes, I was in a Dracula play in school. Get over it. and I didn't get to live through Buffy and Angel. I did, but I didn't watch it. I wasn't involved in that sort of fandom and that community when it first started. I got to have a backseat to Twilight and Vampire Academy and all these, and Underworld and all these other fucking poor vampire rejects. And that's always a big frustration for me. But the great thing about Buffy is I can go back and watch that. I can go back and watch Angel and there's, just because I was, for want of a better phrase, born in the wrong time, doesn't mean I can't enjoy it.
And that fandom, it's still there and it's active and I just love that it's one of those things that seems to span generations. Like, there are people who are the right age for Buffy now who are passing it on to their kids. And I love that. I love that it's continuing to be popular. it it's just one of those things. Like, one of the things I noted down to talk about with Buffy is that it's, even though it's a supernatural thing and it's slayers and vampires and monsters and all this stuff, it deals really well with real life struggles in that context. So, like, bullying and growing up and your responsibilities coming, and
but not in a really stupid, twatty CW way.
And it does it in a way that makes, I felt as a young person, because I was still quite young watching it. You know, I was late to watching it, but I was probably the right age range. I learned a lot from Buffy.
So did
And
I.
that's amazing to be able to say that. And I learned a lot about what it's like growing up. I felt like the show understood what it was like to be a teenager and to have all these responsibilities. It was always, the supernatural stuff was on top of what it's like to be that age. And that's something that's so rare to find, especially nowadays. So I think it's amazing that that's continued on for youth nowadays, to look back and be like, you know, it still gets me. It still understands what it's like dating as a teenager and trying to fit in and still...
20 years later.
It's amazing.
It's testament to how great of a writer Joss Whedon was, how great of a how great his team was and all the people that worked on it, how great the cast was, how great the side characters, and just everything about it. There's a reason why it stands the test of time. And I'm going to watch it in the future. And I think I will pass it on to my kids, as you say. And I think it's one of those things that will last forever, but it's got a good reason for it. It has that sort of staying power. And I mean, again, I don't like to use the word perfect, but if I was going to,
it would be Buffy.
It would be Buffy. And on that note, I think we're going to end the show. We've been talking about this for a long time because we love it so much. Thank you very much for joining me today, Kit.
No problem. I can talk about Buffy anytime you need.
Yeah, excellent. If you enjoy the show, please tell your friends, shout it from the rooftops, and if you haven't already, go back and listen to some of our other super episodes, like the episode we did with Kit last time talking about cosplay. It's really interesting. And you can listen to the show on iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, or at podcapers.com. We have a Patreon. Check out the rewards, patreon.com/AP2HYC. If you want to get in touch with us, suggest show topics, or maybe you want to come on the show yourself, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at AP2HYC. Thank you very much to Dan Harris for our logo, the microphone, the red and blue 3D glasses. Those are mine. And thank you for listening. This has been Podcapers, the official podcast of A Place to Hang Your Cape. Cue the music!